Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. And if we could all please stand, Pastor Doug Pratt with the First Presbyterian Church will lead us in our invocation. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and
Welcome.
council members. It's my pleasure. Thank you for the privilege of praying for you. Heavenly Father, as we gather here today, we are so grateful for all the blessings we have, the blessings of living in a free land, of being a part of a great community, of living in a wonderful part of your creation, and all the blessings that come to us. It is with thanksgiving that we gather, but also with a recognition that there is work to do. We want to pray for our president and our nation's leaders as they face very challenging and difficult times. We also want to pray for our community leaders. Bless the mayor, the council members, the staff. Grant them wisdom this day and in all their tasks. Grant them the ability to hear from citizens and from one another carefully and accurately and speak clearly. Grant that they might make the choices that will guide us into an even better future. We pray for them and for each one of us. And we pray this asking God to bless America. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Councilman Schlachter, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
It will be an honor, Mayor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carumba. Here. Councilman DeWitt.
Present.
Councilman Slachta.
Here.
Mayor Simmons.
Here.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Here.
Councilman Gibson.
Here.
Councilman Jones.
Here.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Mayor.
Happy Ides of February and happy belated Valentine's Day. If public comment at this time, if any member of the public would like to come up and speak, please do so at this time. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Rick Steinmeier, lifetime member of the Historical Society and a member of the Lions Club Board of Directors. The city is co-sponsoring a fish fry this Sunday at the behind the Lyles Hotel. The Lions Club is supplying the fish, and it's a fundraiser for the Historical Society. I throw that in because it was on the agenda in the past. As far as the Wonder Gardens, let's live with the deal we made. The deal was made, it was approved by the city council. If they can't pay the bills, then we'll have to do whatever we got to do. We buy it back, lease it to the people if they want it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody else from the public? Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning, everybody, and happy Valentine's Day to y'all. I'm a member of the Special Events Committee, and on the consent agenda is, of course, Celebrate Bonita's coming up. We now have a firm date. It's March 25th, so we have time, and you'll be hearing more about it. But I do want to tell you, we're so excited. Now, I'm speaking for all of them. No one else could be here. You know Bobby, Terry, Lemaine, Len, Phyllis, Michelle, who are on the committee. But our headliner this year is going to be Joe Nichols. So I think it's going to be a really great show, and more will be coming up, but I just want to let you know that. And also, I noticed the pedestrian and bicycling thing is coming. And just one quick comment. I admit I have not read the whole thing yet. I don't know the whole thing. But remember, I've been here since the 60s, and I'm talking now about Bonita Beach Road and Hickory Boulevard. When Little Hickory Island ended at Big Hickory Pass, it was a destination. It was wonderful. And a lot of these big embellishments make sense. But you know, now it's a thoroughfare. Everyone coming from Fort Myers Beach comes through. So just be very, very careful when you do get time to approve it, that you don't take away from our traffic problems by making it and embellishing it better for pedestrians and bicyclists. I mean, I'm all in favor of it, but just think carefully. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. Well, good morning.
How are you? I'm Bonnie Whittemore. I'm current president of the Historical Society, and I'd like to make some comments on our behalf for what the city attorney has on the agenda under number 12. I was going through our archives yesterday, which I do quite often. Developers will call me, what do you know about this? What do you know about that? And I ran across a 2-page document from 1975 that had all of these places that were declared historical. It's buildings, it's homes, it's sites. So if you fast forward 20 years, I also found in the paper this article from December 8th, 95. The trees are coming, the trees are coming. Any of you recall that? Well, in 1995, the county commissioners of Lee County gave us 3 trees, oak trees, to be planted between this park and Depot Park. They put a value on them of $1,600. But it's interesting that this is the last paragraph of the article. The 3 trees are a symbolic jump start for the Bonita Springs Community Redevelopment Agency, a volunteer advisory group trying to turn a rundown downtown into an old Florida pedestrian area, inviting people to stop, shop, stay, and spend money and eat. So now we fast forward to where we are today, and it looks like we've been in this conundrum of whatever you call it for the last 40 years. So we think it's really imperative that we, Bonita Springs, still keep 1 foot in each camp. 1 foot in redevelopment and the other in preservation. So on behalf of the Historical Society, we definitely support both the spirit and the philosophy of having a demolition delay so all parties from any place can have a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Other members of the public at this time? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to proclamations and presentations. If Lieutenant James Boglioli will step forward, please.
Jimmy.
No respect, Jim. No respect. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
Now you're eating, you don't have to take it.
He's got that vice grip handshake. I like that. Oh, yeah. That's very good. Well, welcome. How are you this morning?
Very good.
You doing all right? Did you see that Super Bowl?
Yes, sir.
Did you watch it till the end?
I watched it till the end.
Did you watch overtime?
Overtime.
Fantastic. All right. This is fantastic, especially after that Super Bowl. This is a certificate of recognition. It's just a small token of what you and so many others do for our community of Bonita Springs. So this is presented in appreciation for your outstanding and dedicated service to the citizens of the city of Bonita Springs in going above and beyond the call of duty, signed Mayor Peter Simmons, February 15th, 2017. If we could please give him a round of applause.
Bob Vandergrift, I couldn't do it without you. You're the man. I appreciate it. Bonita Springs is dear to my heart. I love Bonita Springs and all of South District, and actually Lee County Sheriff's Office. But Bonita Springs is just a wonderful place to work and to be involved in. The people are fantastic. The mayor, incredible. And all the council members. Cannot do it without them. Thank you so much.
Mrs. Vandergrift, would you like to come up as well, please? Good morning, Mayor. How are you? You were the mayor of which community?
Burlington,
Would you like to say a
New
word?
Jersey.
Yes.
You don't give a,
Yes.
don't give a microphone to a mayor.
How are you? If you wanted just maybe a little background of this, if you'd like.
We go to a, one of the eating establishments here, and they were having a little problem of the waitresses coming in the morning in the dark, and they were met by a very disheveled person, and a little frightened about it, but it became a little incident where the girls were frightened. I called my friend. I call him my friend because he is. I called my friend to ask him to take a look at it. He not only took a look at it, but there's a whole story about it that he changed that place out there and made it a safe place that was going to be habitat for persons. And he changed that. He made our community a little more safe. And I thank you very, very much.
picture here, folks.
Picture.
About face.
Come on, Mary, you remember how to do this, don't you?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you.
Jimmy. Buddy, take care.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Good luck on your new job.
Thank you so much.
Good job, brother.
Is Kat here? Good morning. Good morning, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Nice to see you.
This is my general manager who got first taught who helped work get all the details together. So I'd like for him to.
Sure, absolutely. This is a certificate of appreciation presented to Kat Lucchini. Lusheen. My mistake, I'm sorry. And in memory of Alan Goldman.
Yes, my husband.
For your kind and generous donation of land, which will be used for the development of a future park, this park shall be named a la Cat.
Yes.
A la Cat.
Alacat.
Without an R, right? I'm trying to get my accent into it.
It's Alan and Cat.
Very good, and will be enjoyed by the citizens of the city of Bonita Springs for many years to come. Signed, Mayor Peter Simmons, February 15th, 2017. Thank you very, very much for your Say a word.
Well, I'm not a speaker, but when Alan came to this town, he fell in love with Bonita Springs. He flew in with his plane and he bought Landmark Estates. Then he bought a farm, which is now Bonita Fairways, with a public golf course. So please come and play golf. And then he also was the provider of the land that went to Pueblo Bonita with some resistance, but it turned out to be one of the most renowned, best founded communities as Sarasota, Bradenton, all these other counties looked at. And so to continue with his memory, by people enjoying Bonita Springs and making this happen, I just want to thank the city, the mayor, everyone that's been working on this for the future residents and tourists to enjoy it. So.
Very nice.
Photo. Ready? All right.
You got my skinny side.
Thank you very much.
You did
Okay,
very well
we
in
have
speaking.
one more. Is Bob Finnis here, please? There he is. How are you? You're hiding over there. I didn't see you. Welcome. Good morning. This is a certificate of appreciation presented to Bob Finnis for his many years of service to the city of Bonita Springs as a member of the Tree Advisory Board and local planning agency. Signed, Mayor Peter Simmons, February 15th, 2017. Thank you, Bob.
Well, it's been a great run, but I want to say one thing. I've really been honored and blessed to be associated with the volunteers on both boards. And I encourage anyone that wants to serve the city to really consider volunteering for one of the boards. But it's been a great run, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Photo up. These photos, I don't know where they go, but they go somewhere.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, Bob. Bonnie needs a photo.
Take care. Congratulations. Thank you. Once again, thank you, everybody, for all your service to our city. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you very, very much. And now we're going to move on to item D, I guess, provide direction to staff regarding amending LDC, the Community Development Fee Schedule, green sheet number 17-020083.
Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Yes, please,
I'd
Carl.
like to start this. As council will recall, back during the budget process, there was an interest in the city taking a look at our fee schedule with regards to community development and determining whether or not those fees were adequate for what we were doing. We are talking more what I call the soft side of community development, which would be the planning, zoning, review area, and a lot of the reports that you see come before you time to time. We are not expecting a decision today by council. We wanted to begin the discussion and get some general direction from council as to where you would like to see this go. We have provided you a lot of data here in terms of comparables and those kinds of things, but what you will notice is that really it's difficult to compare city to city. They call the same thing different things from city to city, and the fees are hardly ever the same city to city. So it really gives the city freedom, the council freedom in the future to really set the rates to where you would like to see them go. John is going to provide the presentation this morning, and with that, John Dolman. John?
Great.
Morning, Mr. Mayor. As
Morning, John.
Speaking for the softer side of community development, what you have before you is a lot of disjointed information, and I think that Carl really hit the broad stroke on it in the fact that every community does their own thing when it comes to these type of fees, meaning they decide what they want to permit, how they want to permit it, and how they want to charge for that review. And there is no apples to apples comparison. We try to look for some that at least would give us a snapshot of where we stood. And probably Estero is the closest, mainly because we came from the same tree. But when you look at how people treat planning and zoning, it does vary significantly from community to community. So what you have for examples are really just meant to show certain aspects of how they do things and maybe something that might interest you. So what I'd like to do with this is it's a presentation, but I'd like to treat it as a discussion. And as we move through this, I'd like to kind of get to a point where you as a council say, we would like to go in a certain direction or look for certain things in our fee schedule. And then we would be able to go back and give you a draft schedule that goes along those lines, and we would be at that time able to go line by line and look at how each of these fees would be applied. Also, running parallel with these comparative fees in your packet, you have a section that shows our current fees and proposed fees. Now, the proposed fees are an option if you decide to keep your current philosophy, but you decide to adjust those fees to better reflect the amount of time it takes to review those applications. And I know that there was a discussion that we were looking for additional revenue to cover the cost of planning and zoning reviews during the budget process, and this kind of goes towards that end. I'm not going to say that it's going to cover all of those fees because I really don't think that it's possible to establish a fee schedule that would do that. And I don't know anybody that has done that. But this at least, it works towards that goal. You also probably noticed in front of all of you is that there were two documents, one of them stapled correctly and one of them I noticed this morning was stapled poorly. It's a resolution and an ordinance from the Village of Estero. One of the philosophies I know we discussed in the past was a cost recovery model. And one of the communities that does that locally, for at least certain applications, is Estero. I spoke with their finance department last night, and they were kind enough to send this over to me, and otherwise it would have been included in your packet had I called earlier. Unfortunately, it was just a quick conversation and additional information came out of it. But this gives you kind of a broad outline, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. Really, I just want to draw out a couple of points in your comparative model, and we can go through the slides. Really, the slides are just your comparative charts and also some fee schedules. But really, what I want to kind of highlight is if you look in your packet, Boynton Beach handles their development orders a little bit differently than we do. We charge per acre, they charge per lot. You'll also see that they vary their cost on project size as opposed to lot size. Their zoning, they also charge based on the size of the project, where Sarasota County will charge more per lot on a smaller development, and as the lots increase, the per lot cost for these applications decreases. And the reason I'm calling this out is because it kind of goes to what you want to do. Some people have looked at community development fees, I'll call them community development fees because they're not the building fees, as either economic development tools because they keep them artificially low. They look at them as a cost recovery model, which keeps them, I won't say high, but higher and closer to the actual cost. And then they look at them as targeted incentive type plans where they have certain types of development that they want to see at a lower cost than other developments. So when you look through those comparisons, the reason why they're there is to kind of see how each of these communities prioritized development. Towards the cost recovery model, if you look at the ordinance and resolution, what that's going to outline is essentially that for, and I think I have a slide for this. Oh, that was smaller than I thought, so. All right, this is the per hour cost. But if you look at the ordinance and the resolution, the ordinance will outline that for comprehensive plan applications, zoning application, and development order applications, there is essentially a deposit that we would call an application fee. And 10% of that deposit is used for administration. The other 90% it will then be charged per hour by their consultant. Their consultant uses these rates, which smaller than I had intended, but that's the rate that they will bill every month the Village of Estero, and that comes off of that deposit or application fee. When that application fee reaches 20%, they then need to write a check for 50% of the original deposit to continue the review. And that process goes back and forth until the application is complete. Sometimes that involves a public hearing if it's a comprehensive plan amendment or a rezoning, and sometimes it's administrative with development orders. There is, I'll call it a mixed reaction so far. It's very early in their process. There have not been a lot of applications that have gone start to finish, and I think that judgment on this, depending on who you ask, they'll have a wide range of opinions. But what they are doing is they are recovering the costs that are being billed, and the costs that are being billed are strictly passed through. Their consultant gives them the hours they worked on an application, and the city charges the developer and then compensates their consultant based with that money. I don't know. I know we've had a couple of quick conversations, and my presentation has been a little disjointed, but is there anything that you would like to look at? Is there any direction you would like to go to kind of help guide this?
Peter?
Yeah, if I can speak, and John, thanks for doing all this hard work. Let me just say a few words of context because I think I'm kind of the person who started this, but it was a unanimous consent of council. So for building fees, which is not what you're talking about here, we more than recover the cost through our fees. That's why we have an excess amount in the building fee fund. So I just wanted to make it clear to people, this is not an exercise in just like increasing fees. It's an exercise in trying to find a sweet spot where we have a very large cost for community development and the recapture is very low. So in effect, there's a subsidy in there with respect to that, an economic subsidy. Not that that's good or bad. So to try to get more closure on that from a budgetary perspective, at least in my view. I like the direction you seem to be going with respect to Estero, and my recollection from what I've been told and people in Estero is this concept was not created there, that it's not uncommon on the east coast of Florida. So that and the sense of it is that with respect to matters that really take huge chunks, however defined huge is, of your time, there's a recapture. Or maybe not a total recapture, but more recapture. Because my general sense is that there's a lot you all do, but there are certain matters that really do take an awful lot of time. And I think that's what this is getting at. Is that a fair?
I think that's fair, and I would state just from my personal opinion,
Right.
if you were to look at a cost recovery model, that you target those types of applications that you want to recover that cost. I don't personally think it's effective across the board.
Right.
I think that, as you outlined,
Right.
we can define what they are, but applications that do take the bulk of our time, or at least take a more significant period of our time to review, those should be targeted if that's the direction we want to go. And those other applications that are more, I'll call them routine, probably not appropriate for that type of recovery model. But that's,
I would agree with that, and I would use the word focused rather than targeted. I mean, it's basically what's happening is the other applications are in effect subsidizing that as well. So anyhow, that's my 2 cents.
Counsel? Greg?
I share Peter's sentiment on it to recapture some of it. But my question is in my lifetime, there's people will take advantage of that. And I guess my question is okay, let's use a C-glass or an MPD or something like that. Is there a standard that says, okay, it should take 4 hours to review something like this, and it's taken 12, and the applicant's being charged for 12? I know, like in the mechanics, whether you're looking at a Corvette or a Chevette, to change an alternator, there's a set time frame for that. Is there something that we can do to maybe alleviate a business or developers? Hey, am I being taken advantage of? This really should only take a couple, 8 to 12 hours, but now it's going on 24 hours. We're getting review after review after review and change after change after change.
unfortunately, that's the weakness of a cost recovery model. And there is no book. There is no alternator takes an hour. And the problem is that you would see it on both sides. You could see an applicant complaining that the government is simply asking for more information to charge more money. And you could also see the government saying, you are making us charge more money because you are turning in substandard applications and is unnecessarily dragging out this process. And they're really, other than the fact that you could over time establish trust and patterns and habits, I don't know if there's a true single answer to that concern. And that's always been the weakest part of this type of model.
Is there a way to do it, maybe like a not to exceed or something like that, or we have a top, a ceiling?
What's been done to kind of offset that weakness is that some people have not started charging a cost recovery until a certain point in the process. Up to that point, everything is covered under the initial fee. If it goes beyond whatever the point that's established, you can then start charging your hourly rates and billing it that way. And that's kind of like a hybrid of the two philosophies.
I guess my last comment or question would be is how far off do you think we are on some of these fees? A little bit, or
how far off in terms of what it's actually costing us to review?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
do
are
not-
we that far out of whack where?
Well, in terms
some
of
of
what it
them.
costs versus what you're charging, yes.
Okay.
But I don't know of any community that has bridged that gap successfully. The main benefit of a community development department is to have a better community that's valued more, so that there's more revenue that comes in, then that goes towards supporting these departments, and that's supposed to be an ongoing cycle.
Plus the softer side as well.
Always the softer
Yeah,
side.
right.
Yes.
But
John, if we were to pin you down to one area or one thing, just one, what would you say is way out of whack in the process in terms of what we capture versus what goes out?
I think it's probably your public hearing applications. And I think that those vary. We've had some public hearing applications, maybe for a very, very minor special exception, that have taken very little staff time and have come before you very quickly.
Right.
We've also had very complicated applications that are ongoing currently that have been in the process for over a year. And so those have a tendency to be much further out of whack than you would see maybe a home occupation license or something that comes in and is turned out in a day or two from our office. But even in those situations, you see such a variety of what comes in the door, what's being requested, how long it takes to be approved, the level of complexity, the level of quality of the application that's being submitted. So if you were to ask me one thing, I would say public hearing applications, but with the caveat, it's not always the biggest projects that are the most difficult. In fact, most often it's the smaller projects.
That's why I would not go by acres or something like that. I mean, it's really more recapture of time. And one other kind of a mirror image of Greg's point, which, you know, in theory, you could have somebody hitting the accelerator. As a person who used to be in the business of selling time by the hour, it's, you know, it's not, I understand that point. There's a mirror image of that, which is
Down to the 6 minutes, right, Peter? Or is that-
very good. Well done. Yeah. Boy, I'm getting flashbacks.
Whether it's 1 minute or 5 minutes, it's 6
Yeah,
minutes,
6
right?
minutes,
Yeah, right.
yeah. I'll keep going on this, but I can tell you funny stories. There's a mirror image of that in theory as well, which is that because there's a charge, it makes from the applicant's point of view, it encourages more efficiency. So just
It does.
two theoretical
Sure.
points.
And to add a couple of other ideas just for you to think about, you have Boynton Beach, which looks at kind of, I think I said, a mixture of, you know, straight up application fees and then a second level of review. They then start charging cost recovery. And then you have more of a Collier County model that doesn't look for cost recovery per se, but they have individual fees for essentially every department that reviews an application. So they're not going to charge per hour, but they're going to charge per specialty. And so there would be a review fee for landscape architecture, a review fee for engineering, a review fee for zoning. And that is how they look to do it. Now, I don't know if I would recommend the amount of fees that they charge for those things, but I think that the idea behind how they do it does have sound reasoning behind it.
Right. Fred, you had your hand up and you've been patient. Go ahead, please.
I think, and this is, I'd like to think that we come up with a system that does allow for us picking up the load for the little old guy coming in to do something to get a spatial exception on building a house, or the individual mom and pop operation, because I think that's the core of the community and we need to do something to help them out. I think on collecting more on the larger things, that's the right track, whether it's a full cost recovery or partial or whatever. So.
Well, and as a general note, I just want this council to know that no one has ever come into my office and told me that they have a lot of money to spend.
Right. Well, I want to thank Peter for bringing this up, and I know there's probably some. I'll hold my comments for now. Actually, yeah. Thanks. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, well, I just want to say I agree with what Fred just said. You know, if we can help out the people on the smaller scale, you know, it's definitely the better way to go. And it sounds like the hybrid situation might be the best way. But I just had questions on this sheet that had proposed changes.
Yes.
On the green sheet, it says increases are generally about 10%, but when I looked, only 16% of them are 10% or less, with nearly a third of them being 50% or more. And you had brought up the home occupation license. That went up 150%. So I was just wondering if these proposed changes are, you know, really related to how much time it takes to, you know, consider them.
Yes. And we looked at two different things. One was a comparative for those communities that charge similar fees, and the other was the amount of time that it took, and looked for a balance between those two, essentially. And so you're not going to see situations where they're going to be too far out of whack in terms of time involved to review. You're also going to see a little bit of an adjustment to either keep them competitive or keep them in line with other communities with similar fees. So yes, there were especially the lower cost fees. Those are going to rarely be limited to a 10%, because even a $5 increase is going to be a significant percentage amount. So a $20 fee doesn't give you a whole lot of room if you're going to keep a 10% increase. So we're not looking to present something to you that doesn't reflect time or competitiveness. At the same time, I understand that you're looking for a little bit more of a cost recovery through some form or philosophy, and this goes towards that goal. They're meant strictly for debate. I had gone through there with the staff. We had looked at other fees. We had looked at how much time it takes. From what we could remember, what was the fastest application we could think of, what was the longest application, what did it normally take to review, and kind of gave it our best guess from there, because these fees are strictly that.
Well,
They're going to be a best
and
guess.
that's what I wanted to make sure that, you know, I know these are smaller amounts, and that's why it's a much larger percentage that it went up. But, I mean, are we just saying, oh, well, this community gets that much, so we should be able to get that much, too?
No, a lot-
Or
well,
does it actually take, you know,
a lot of the-
$50 worth of time versus $20 worth of time?
A lot of your fees that are in that range are fees that we really haven't looked at in terms of cost specifically, I don't think ever. Lee County came up with a lot of those fees when they created their fee schedule. We adopted that fee schedule. We've modified it several times since then, but the major focus of those discussions has been kind of what it is here. It's been hearings that or applications that require a public hearing, or applications that require a little bit more time. We haven't really looked at the home occupation license type application or the smaller type application that generally, if it's not reviewed over the counter, it's reviewed within a day or two. But how much time does it actually take when you are reviewing it? And so that's why you see a lot of changes in those fees, because those really haven't been addressed since the city incorporated.
I just had one
Greg?
quick, on the proposal, I just don't want us to get back into a spot kind of like we were with impact fees on hotels and stuff like that, a year down the road, that we're so far out of whack compared to everybody else.
And that's why I'm trying to, I know it's a lot of information and it appears to be disconnected, but I'm trying to provide you as much background as possible, so at least you can get a feel for kind of what other people are doing.
Okay.
If we want to get into a discussion on how each of these philosophies plays into how they charge the fees, and if that provides a better background for you at the next hearing, I'm happy to do that, because I think it does, it at least goes to what you're saying. You don't want to look back and be out of whack.
Right.
But you also want to be comfortable with where you are, regardless of what other
agreed.
people are doing.
I don't want to be taken advantage of.
Correct.
Amy, did you have anything?
No, I.
Oh, okay, no, Steve, down here, I just wanted to say, Peter, thanks for getting this kicked off, and John and Carl and everybody, thanks for presenting this, and I guess if we're looking for direction, I'm just going to kind of throw out, as of today, and we certainly wouldn't hold you to this, but knowing what we're doing with this exercise, which is an important one, what would you recommend how we go forward to help bridge this gap, help keep it fair, but quite frankly, keep it fair for everybody, the city and the taxpayers included?
I would give you two choices, and kind of council's pleasure. One would be kind of the Collier model with more individualized fees, that you identify who's going to be involved and there's something associated with it. The second would be possibly a hybrid cost recovery model, and it would be covered by the application fee to a certain point in time of the review, and anything above and beyond that would then require a per hour cost. But I would focus those areas that you did that on public hearing applications and development order applications, and then looking at the remainder of the fees kind of as a separate but necessary discussion. Is that?
Yeah, no, that's good, Peter.
Well, I would suggest number two. And I absolutely agree with Fred and Mike's sentiment about, let's just not willy-nilly, no, I'm not suggesting you're doing this, but raise fees for the sake of raising fees. My whole intent on this is to address where the cost is being generated and appropriately direct revenue toward that cost, without overdoing it, as if I might say, as Greg would say. So I would go for the hybrid. You're going to have a definitional issue. I know Estero and a lot of other jurisdictions have tackled that. I don't think we have to solve that today, unless you think we do.
No, I think
yeah.
that really the whole purpose. This is going along exactly as I had hoped.
Okay.
So we could at least get to a direction. That's all I'm looking for, and we can take that direction and then bring it into a proposed schedule, so that way we have something to debate and we can go through the details.
Council with a nod ahead, nod of heads, does that sound okay? Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can't talk this morning. I need some more coffee, but okay, great. Is that fantastic? Okay, wonderful. Option two. Thank you. Curtain number 2. Thank you, John. You're right. Okay, now let's move on to the consent agenda. Council, please take a look at that carefully. Anything anybody wants to pull?
I'd like to pull G, I, and J.
G, I, and J.
Right.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the rest, or does anybody
So
want?
move.
Moved.
Okay, there's a motion and a second.
Second.
Other than G, I, and J. Roll call, please.
Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilman Slackton.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Okay, Peter, G.
Yeah, I might almost tackle G and J together. The genesis of this came from, remember a meeting or two ago, I had a green sheet in with respect to a possible grant application for multi-use paths up to $200,000. It was the one where Jim Worcester was volunteering his time, and he has done that. He spent a lot of time on it, working with Matt particularly on it. So it's moving along. It has to be filed by the end of February. There are certain requirements for points in that application, where you get points for certain things. One happens to be, specific decision to go with certain. Is your proposed project, has it been approved in a certain way? So, for example, if you take J, that's the multi-use path on our priority number 1, which we decided in December. Matt has put this forward simply, not that we have to go over it again, but just, he's putting it forward in a way to make sure we get the points in that application.
That's specifically.
Yeah, that's why that's here. And I would say, Carl, unless there's anything to add, G is a cousin of that.
That is correct, sir.
Yeah. So I would move G and J then.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Further discussion?
For G and J.
For G and J, roll call, please.
Councilman Slackton.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Okay, aye.
And I just pulled aye to thank Arlene, who can't be here right now, for a fabulous piece of work, and I know Sean was involved and others as well on this. This is simply the enhanced guidelines, enhanced design work we can get with respect to building a first-class multimodal path, starting with the one on Terry, one that would be a showpiece for Bonita Springs. So I just pulled it to say thank you.
Wonderful, yeah.
With that, I would move it.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilman Slackton.
Okay, wonderful. Mayor and council member items. Item A, this is a Wonder Gardens update. Councilman O'Flynn and Carl Schwing, and there's no green sheet.
There's no green sheet.
There's no numbers
You
for
can
me to
imagine
read.
that. Carl, I'll go. Yeah. So this is just a brief update. I know council has looked into the Wonder Gardens. I know we all have a consensus that we want the Wonder Gardens to not just persevere, but absolutely flourish. And so, toward that end, and I know the other council members as well, I had one meeting that was publicly noticed with Councilwoman Carumba, sat down with staff. We had a very productive meeting with Carl and Ann, and Audrey was there as well, going through the financial aspects with respect to the city. I have sat down with Trish Leonard, who I know you all know has done a fabulous job leading the effort at the Wonder Gardens, along with other members of the board, Dennis Gilkey, Marjorie Rabacki, and Thomas Hecker was there as well, understanding the vision that they have for it. And from my perspective, there's a lot of good work that has been done and more work that needs to be done. And so that's just my personal update on that, all toward, making the Wonder Gardens even better than it is today.
Okay. Council, further discussion? Fred?
Yeah, I'd like to bring up that, we voted unanimously to bring this up and do it today.
To do what?
I played the tape this morning to just make sure I was right.
That's what we're doing, giving it
No,
up.
we're kicking the can down the road again. So if we either need to make a motion to kick the can down the road or to act on the proposal that was submitted to us.
Right. So I'd make a motion not to kick a can. That there's, additional work that we're doing with respect to this. Amy?
No, well,
Sure.
I didn't review the tape, but my recollection, because I was the one that
Yes.
took it off the table or whatever the, asked for the continuance there, my thought was that we needed time to do some research, which I think we've already started to. We have participated in that public meeting. I too have had I spoke with Thomas Hecker, and it's just my opinion that we need to do some background material individually with the entity, because I really do not see how we could proceed with the proposal that was put before us without doing a lot of homework. And if you want to make if you want me to make a motion that we just, I think Audrey wants me to say continue, but I want to say table, to give us, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks of going down various paths to see where we're going the direction.
I'm going to jump in here, and I'm not sure what all discussions have exactly been going on, but there's a word on the street that there have been discussions going on with the city taking this back and the Everglades Wonder Garden paying rent to the city. Now, whether that's true or not true, I'm here to blow that rumor out of the water, that there will be no credence to that on my watch, assuming there's 3 other people that agree with me. So whether that conversation has happened or not happened, I'm looking for a nod of the head from Carl Schwing, whether he's heard anything along those lines. And if he did, how come 7 members up here don't know that?
Well, let me address that. There's...
So there's an ounce of credence to it, is what I'm hearing.
Well, no, let me address it.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is explore various options. And I don't have a particular option at this time to bring forward because we're exploring various options. It is the case that one of the things that actually was on the green sheet last time was, what if the city took it back? That is one possible option. So I think, to Amy's point, various things are being considered. And I think or looked into by, I guess, various council people. So the question is, when are we in a position to discuss that? And
Well, it's a very poorly kept secret around town.
No, excuse me, I'd like to speak to that.
Sure.
Because
Sure.
I can talk to my conversations that I had. First of all, we had a public meeting that's totally record. We never talked about an option.
Without checking availability of other council members, I might add.
Well, because there was an urgency the point of the meeting and these one-on-ones that we're having is to not explore, in my view, is not to explore options. My intent of the conversation is to explore the Wonder Gardens, to get a full picture of their financial situation and their concept plans for how they have to go forward. Because before we as a council can assess that proposal that was brought to us, which we did not have any financial information at all available to us. We have subsequently gotten more financial information. We're going to meet, I am planning on meeting with their financial board members to get more questions answered. And that's all that's happened. Because of the Sunshine Law, we have to do this on an individual basis. Or we have to notice the meeting and then have a public meeting. They are in the middle of a major fundraiser, which I feel we should just, and I'm sorry that we're having this discussion because I want them to be successful on their Thursday thing. But I feel strongly about this, that we are not proposing any option. I don't even know what the option is that come out of this.
Right.
And if you want me to explore, on a one-on-one basis where we're going with this, I think we're not doing our due diligence unless we go down this path. So for anyone to say that we're not including other people, we're asking people to do that. And frankly, I put it back on the other council member to take their time to explore these things. That's our responsibility.
Yep. No, it absolutely is, Amy. I concur 100% with that sentiment. But with whatever's floating around town, that's the problem with listening to rumors, but I didn't want to sweep it under the rug that I hadn't heard it, or I wouldn't be doing the citizens of Bonita Springs fairly either. So,
Well, I think-
sorry to touch on a sensitive subject.
No, I don't think it's sensitive at all.
No.
I don't think it's sensitive at all. I believe that I circulated to council in a communication, not asking for any response, a note that I had put with respect to various things that I was thinking about. So I don't think there's any big, to me, this is diligence and trying to figure out where to go with something.
Yep. Well, and we should certainly continue down that path.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
Okay. Anybody else on council?
Yeah, I just have a couple comments. I mean, I think the staff has done a lot of the due diligence. And they came to us with a proposal, and they had spoke to the Wonder Gardens about what they can afford or what they want to see. The way I see it, and Amy kind of touched on it a little bit, they're doing fundraisers. That was one of their major focuses, that they came to us, that it's hard for them to do fundraisers when they're in flux right now, let's call it. They don't know what the city's going to do. Are they going to call the note due come June when they don't have the money? Or are we going to renegotiate a longer-term loan? And for me, and I guess we could sit and go over their financials day in and day out for the next 6 to 8 weeks, but to me, there's only 2 to 3 different options. Either we extend their loan, we call the note due, and we take it over, and then at that point, we own it, and we either do like we did with Bamboo Mobile Village, either we keep it, tear it down, rent it back, or sell it to somebody else. Other than that, there is no other options. Maybe the note goes longer or shorter as to what the council wants or what finance wants, but I don't think that there is a lot of options out there, as in, is there grants available? Is there, partial funding somewhere else? I think that we need to, I think Ann and her staff and Carl and his staff did the due diligence and went and talked to them and said, what can you afford? What are we going to do? And to that, right now, we think or we suspect that come June or July, when their note is due, they're not going to have their payment.
Let me make a suggestion. Maybe we can hear, I see Dennis back there, or Trish, hear from them about what they think up on process, whether they think it's appropriate to be working on this for a while.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And while he's coming up,
Yes,
I would
Mike.
like to bring up that we are trying to make sure that the Wonder Gardens thrives.
Exactly.
And having, the higher loan payment due sooner,
Right.
it is very hard to fundraise for them. And restructuring this, giving them the 5 years would definitely help with that. And with the big event tomorrow, this would really help with getting the money that way. But we also have a obligation to the taxpayers. If we were to take this back, it's just another outlay of money from the taxpayers. And even if we loaned it back or rented it back or whatever, we're not bringing in the kind of money. If we restructure it 5 years, we're getting the taxpayer money back, and then they should be able to get a loan from a bank by then because they are showing payments.
Agreed.
They should have equity by then, and then it works out best for the taxpayers. So I would like to see us take care of this today with the proposed from the staff of the 5-year extension.
So let me just, if I might. Some of us have met with people at the Wonder Gardens. My view is to try to develop something where it not just perseveres, but fully flourishes. My view is I'm not in a position to take that back to City Council until I've had more time to work on it. Somehow, one of the ideas has somehow been perceived as like some kind of done deal. It couldn't be anything further from the truth. I understand perception, but perception is not reality, because reality, because reality can only be done on this dais. So, we're in a position where we're doing work to try to get to yes on something, and we have perceptions. It's the real world. All right. So,
Mayor, can I make a
Yes,
quick-
Fred.
can I finish?
You can finish, absolutely.
I'm kind of
Fred, excuse me, can I finish?
Fred, just a minute, please.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So, I'll speak for myself. I would hope council agrees with this, that The Wonder Gardens is a wonderful place. This group has done tremendous work. We're all supportive of it. I, for one, am going to the fundraiser tomorrow night and proud to be doing it. And am trying to get some time to work with the Wonder Gardens to come up with ideas that could be brought back to council for proper consideration toward an end of having it fully flourish. It may be a loan extension, it may be others, maybe other ideas. So my question is to Dennis, is that something that makes sense to you all at the Wonder Gardens?
And before Dennis speaks, Fred, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I agree with what Mike has said. I'm going to be at the fundraiser tomorrow night. My thought is we would approve this today. Does not mean that in 2 months, if there's a better proposal, we can't accept it. We could even put in the approval that you would have a 2-month delay before you start making monthly payments. But at least they would be able to go to their fundraiser with something that's approved that says, we're at least doing this. And then we can bring back the other proposals.
May I speak?
Yes.
I'm really sorry to say this, but I really am asking council to indulge me and do not do this at this time. I have done some due diligence. And let me say that I can challenge many things that have been said here. I don't want to say this at this time, so please do not do this. And if you want to go forward with that, I'll start talking, but I don't think it's an appropriate time to do that.
Okay.
Because I don't think that we have done our due diligence here. And I'm sorry to criticize staff. I don't believe that they did either. And I'm trying to set up a meeting with the Wonder Gardens to clarify this. I could be wrong, but right now I don't think I am.
Okay.
All right? This is not the time to do this. I don't want to even vote for a proposal that might not be successful 5 years from now. And I too am concerned that this should be a flourishing port. I don't know what the outcome is right now.
Okay.
So I challenge what's said, but I don't want to say more than that. I just really ask you to indulge me at this point. And I'm sorry to make it so personal, but that's the way I feel.
Okay.
So Dennis?
Dennis?
I'm not sure if there's a question on the table, but the...
Well, the question is, are you okay with more time to work with you all to try to develop something better? That's the
Well, I
question.
think what we'd like is an acknowledgement from the board that the $1 million payment come June 1 is not going to happen. It's just not feasible for where we're at in the life cycle of this organization. It was a short-term bridge loan. We did make our first payment last June 1 to $570,000. But as we tried to raise funds, what we feel is that we aren't quite ready for a capital campaign, because capital means you're going to build stuff, and we want to build stuff. We can do a lot of things that some of you have seen our concept plan. So we have some great opportunities to build it even better than it is today, or to improve it. Educational facilities, boat and ecological tours from the river. We have a lot of opportunities to improve the gardens and make it a jewel for the city. And so the city is our partner. But we appreciate that you've had both Ann, right, and Councilman Gibson on our board for 2 years. So it's not, there's not a lot of secrets. It's pretty transparent. But the staff came up with a program that we thought was pretty creative on how it might fit where we're at in our life cycle today, with a 5-year balloon that says, okay, at some point we're off and running with bigger and better fundraising, as well as our hopefully capital issues that we can define better by that time, within the next year or two. As you know, we've just brought on, as of January, a new executive director, a very professional gentleman that we think will get us there. And so we do know that it's very difficult to ask people for significant dollars when 100% of that dollar has to go back to pay the city. So that's very difficult in a capital campaign, that you can't build it until you pay back the city the $3 million. And so that's the dilemma we're in right now. And I think what the staff came up with, and there's other choices. There was another alternate that involved a bank loan that could work even better, possibly. But but something that fits better where we're at in our life cycle of the organization, and also recognize that we have made it through 2 summers, 2 off seasons successfully. So we have a sustainable business operation. It wasn't sustainable as a for-profit. It is sustainable as a not-for-profit, and we have over 300 members, and you saw some of the numbers with that. We have about 2,500 prospects in our database. Of those, we probably have a couple hundred that are really key prospects that we're targeting. So we're off and running. It's just going to take a few turns at the wheel. But the staff has come up with we think was a very creative program. There's a couple different ways, plenty of different ways to do it maybe, but probably 2 or 3 other ways that would make sense for the city and for the Winter Gardens. The current structure isn't going to work, so let's get on with making something, at least acknowledging that we've got to make a change, and we can wait as long as you acknowledge that you're going to work with us for that change, because we would like to continue on and either do what the staff has proposed or something maybe even better than that. So thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Council, Mike?
Audrey, is it possible to make a motion that we say at a minimum, we would do the loan restructuring? That way they have, reassurance for the donors tomorrow night that we are not going to call this loan in June.
How about a motion that you direct city staff, including myself and the city manager and finance, that we will not proceed with foreclosure proceedings after the June 1, 2017 date, should they not be able to make that payment. That's all you need at this point, and then we can figure out restructuring, and I won't take it, I would come back to council anyway for action before I ever did any filing. So we can at least put, and then everybody can work on this issue during this time. So we may have a loan that's a foreclosure, or not a foreclosure, a loan or mortgage that's in default, but we can work on it between now, then, and even later to figure out what option city council decides.
And Councilman Schlachta had something, and then
Yeah.
Fred.
Okay. Mayor, if it's okay
Yes.
with you, I would love to hear from our city manager.
Thank you. So, I will tell you personally that I believe in the Wonder Gardens. I think it is important to preserve an 80-year-old roadside attraction, and to do it in such a way that it truly is an anchor for our new downtown, all right? Even though it was established long before our downtown ever thought about redevelopment. In order to attract people to continue to come back to the Wonder Gardens, they need to be able to spend capital money on improvements so that people will return time and time again. That is difficult for them to do, just factually. It is difficult for them to do and still pay back a significant loan payment on the structure that we currently have in place. The staff brought this forward because it was a way, and we don't like to call it kicking the can down the road. What it is providing them additional opportunity to make payments to the city and also assist in helping their business flourish. To what degree it will flourish under a proposal by the staff really has to be upon those who are running the Wonder Gardens. Can you do it or can't you? We have been told that they can do it. This structure would also be different, not only because instead of looking at an original 3-year loan, which is now due in a year and a half, we'd be looking at 5 years from now, so it buys them additional time to raise funds. And that's really where this needs to occur, because I believe the repayment in this, and this is the way it's always been structured, and even when we talked about this when this was originally put together a couple of years ago now, was the risk. And that was, the risk was then, the risk is still now, that fundraising, significant fundraising needs to occur. But you need a base of donors who are, and believe me, I'm not the expert here. I mean, we've got them in the room here. But the issue needs to be a significant fundraising effort, successful, for those funds to be coming in and make those payments. so that you're not draining your operational and your capital improvement expenses in making that place and keeping that place the gem that it really is for our city. And so that's why we said, look, staff-wise, the banks did not show an interest. I'm not sure why the Wonder Gardens would even want the banks involved, because you close a bank loan, you're going to pay fees to close the loan, and I guarantee you they're going to charge you more interest, okay, than we would charge, all right? Now, the city is not taking, interest-wise, the way these deals are structured, the city is not taking a loss on our interest. So the first proposal of saying, look, this is an investment, okay, by the city, and we're actually going to get more interest, if paid, we're going to get more interest than we would from any of the banks that we currently deal with.
Yep.
Okay, actually more than twice. So our concern is, do we send a signal to the Wonder Gardens that we believe in them, and that we believe they can make this work? And again, we approach that from, okay, look, coming up with an annual payment really is not a good thing. We thought so in the beginning. That did not work well. Under this new structure, you're looking at a monthly payment. You know right away if there's an issue in that payment, okay, being made or not. You know in a month if there's going to be a problem, all right? So we believe it's more cost effective. It buys them time. If the council wants to take that kind of approach. There are other structures, and I know that we are taking some time and have spent some time over the last couple of weeks looking at other alternatives, okay, internally here. So that's pretty much what I have to say. We offered it up with the understanding that they told us they could afford these payments, all right? So that's kind of where staff is at this point.
Thank
Steve, did you have it? Yeah.
No, I just want to say thank you. That clarifies a lot.
Okay. Fred?
Yeah, I like Councilman Gibson's idea. I think the better thing to do is we pass a motion that says that we're not going to pull the string 1 July if they didn't have the money, but as a minimum, we would go with extending the loan as proposed right this minute. Now, that gives actually more time. It also gives the Wonder Garden a break, which is their first payment wouldn't start until that 1 July period, once the thing would be signed, and that actually helps them from this point of view. It's harder for them to raise money in the off-season, so they'd only have 2 payments roughly before you're back in the fall.
Amy, do you?
I really don't want to say anything, but I think you're wrong. That's all I could say.
Okay. Greg?
I'm agreeing with Mike and Fred about, my only concern is, and I don't want to see it happen, but to put the stipulation in there that we're not going to pull the string if it doesn't work out, let's say that this vote doesn't pass, and then I want to protect, our investment. To say that we're not going to foreclose on it July 1, what happens if if they don't do it? Are we going to foreclose on it?
Yeah.
That's my only concern.
Why don't-
I think we should restructure.
Hang on
it.
just a second, Amy.
I
Yeah,
changed
Greg,
it.
I'm sorry, Greg. Please finish, and then Amy.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
No, I agree. I think we should do something today. I agree with what Fred and him. I just don't like the part of, hey, we're not going to foreclose on you if something happens.
Right.
That's my only concern.
I agree
as
with
a taxpayer.
Right. Amy,
I
sorry
don't
about
think
that.
there's any urgency to do anything today. This was sort of my thinking, because I felt that I needed a few weeks to get things straight. Let me tell you what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at alternative proposals. I'm looking at whether even the proposed roughly $240,000 that they had suggested they could pay for us, to us over the year, how that would affect their operations, because I am totally committed to having them flourish. And when I went there, it is an exciting place. There's so many wonderful things that are happening there. But they cannot make those wonderful things happen without capital. So the $240,000 that they say they could pay us is not going to go to doing these other things that I think are required in order for them to be successful in their fundraising. So That's my opinion at this point, without having fully done my own complete research. And I do not want to throw this down kick it down the whatever.
Kick the can down the road.
Kick the can down the
Throw
road.
the kick.
Because I don't want to look at this, not even a month from now, or a year from now, or 5 years from now, and find that we're in the same place. I think we need to look at this realistically, because I'm afraid, and I don't like to look back, but I don't think the previous decisions that were made in this was done realistically, you know? And so I'd rather know everything right now and then make a decision. I'm not confident that even the proposed restructuring will do what needs to be done here. That's why I'm concerned. And I started from the beginning, is that we have a responsibility to our people, our residents, that we have to have some confidence that there's a possibility of our being repaid. I'm not even there yet, so there's so many questions that I really prefer not to discuss at this time, because there are no answers. And I know what our manager has suggested is something that I understand the importance of it. I'm fully on board, but what's the point of just making a decision now, and then a year from now having to go through the same very painful stuff, you know? And if we want to do this out in public, then let's post the meeting, you know? Let's all do it together. Let's ask those questions. Let's have them answered. If we want to do it one-on-one, I did it privately because I didn't have any answers at all. But the material that were given us, this is my opinion, was not adequate to make a decision, and it still isn't. So it's unfortunate that we're discussing this 2 days before the fundraiser, and that's why I didn't want this discussed.
Right.
And not because I'm hiding anything. I'm just being practical here.
Right. No, I was going to say, if I can jump in here for a second.
I've said 100 times
yeah.
more than I wanted to, but
Right.
that's really
Right.
the way I feel. And if those of you can go and do your own research, and if you disagree with me, fine. But these are the things that I would suggest that the council should be exploring at this point.
Right.
And
No-
I agree with that.
And while it's important that we get an update here, I think it's of the utmost importance. I think the timing could not be worse on the eve of their event.
Exactly.
So I think it's very, very poor that we're having this discussion now.
Can I make a
Yes,
point?
Fred.
I agree with what Councilman DeWitt said. I think maybe the correct motion would be that we would say that we will wait until 1 July to do whatever we're going to do. But as a minimum, we would at least accept this proposal. That gets you out of what he was concerned about. It gives Councilman O'Flynn, Amy, anybody else that wants to work on this staff a bunch of months, but we at least have given them something that they got a definite. If nothing else is better, you can still bring it back, but at least they walk out of here with a better position for the meeting.
Can I make a suggestion, Fred?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Thanks. And I think it's a good conversation. But the premise, I believe, I know, of the entire conversation is that everyone on this council is committed to making the Wonder Gardens fully flourish. I don't see, is anyone saying no to that? No. All right. So,
I'm not saying no. Yes, I'm saying yes. Double positive, double negative.
double,
You gotta shake
let me
your
flip
head
that on
yes.
its head.
We're on.
All right, so if we could have the motion be that this council is committed to seeing the Wonder Gardens fully flourish, and that toward that end, among the matters that will be considered is the possibility of a loan extension. I think that would put the public and the Wonder Gardens on clear notice that we're committed to that.
And I guess the only difference is splitting hair. What's the difference between saying we're committed and as a minimum we would do this?
Because I'm trying to give some dignity, which I think is deserved, to Councilwoman Carumber's correctly expressed concerns that and I think I hear her saying that is a possibility, but, well, I'm not going to repeat what she said. She said it very well.
I think the difference is that you're already suggesting that that is an acceptable proposal, and I do not feel at this time that I could even make that decision.
No, I'm simply saying
Yes,
that
you're saying you're doing that as a minimum. No, I
I-
think Councilman O'Flynn's proposal, which leaves it open and said that we are going to try to work something out, but hopefully it will be something that is workable, and not just so that we can get $240,000 a year, which is not peanuts, but
if I
we need to.
Hang, when she's done, Fred.
But anyway, I really, you're drawing me in when I say I don't want to say anything.
No, no, absolutely. I go back to these updates are important, but the timing is horrible based on their gala coming up here. Fred?
If I may interject, the difference between, with all due respect, what is being proposed is, we want to work with them. We may be able to work this out, but there's no guarantee. All I'm saying is, if we can't come up with a better solution by that 1 July, we would, as a minimum, enter into this agreement. That gives them a certainty that they would at least have an opportunity to go forward past that. But there's all this time to come up with better proposals, and if there's a better proposal that I'm willing to listen to it, but I just want to give them that certainty. That's where I'm at.
Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. I would hope that if I had a situation where I need the assistance and time of the council, that would be allowed. I think, Amy, you made a very passionate plea that we wait, about 6 weeks? Because you've got some issues that...
We have until June, really.
Yeah.
I mean, we have until June to make this decision. And I think with informal discussions and the commitment that we have, the moral commitment at least that we have made on the council to get this worked out, I really think we've made two commitments. We have, and there's in some ways they're totally separate. We need to assess what this means to the city, because we gave a loan out that is not going to get paid back in the way we thought it was. Let's put it that way. The second commitment is we want it to flourish. So we have to do those sort of the same way, we have to do them at the same time, because what's the point of getting even a monthly payment if in the end they're not going to be able to do what they have to do, and we're not going to get our goal that we have here. So there's so many questions, really. It's just, it's hard to make the decision. I would have to vote against Councilman Forbes' proposal there as he's made it, but I'm more in line with what Councilman O'Flynn had suggested.
Congressman O'Flynn?
Congressman, whatever. Is that where you're going? Are you running? What's that? Councilman O'Flynn. I'd rather call him Peter. It's a lot easier, really. But Peter, I really think that, I think it's going to work out, but we need to do some work here, and it's disappointing that it's come out at this time. I can't go to the fundraiser, but I sent my money, so they shouldn't care anyway. They don't have to feed me, but I think we're on the same mind. It's just that there are a few holes here that we haven't done, and I just don't feel comfortable voting on anything at this point.
And I would support you, Amy, and I just, Peter O'Flynn said, he asked the question, is there anybody here that's against the Wonder Gardens?
No.
What else? We don't need to do anything else. Let's just wait. Amy, we put our faith in you.
And I hope that Peter, when he goes to the fundraiser, will talk to people informally and say that this is what he has in mind, and we have a job to do. It's not just making a vote here. This is my opinion. I didn't want this job, really, believe me.
No, and not that the Wonder Gardens needs coaching, but I'll offer a little bit of free advice, and I'm sure that's exactly what it's worth. I would keep public conversations to an absolute zero, because the word gets around town that something's going on. That's not helpful for anybody, and I can assure you it's not helpful for the 7 people sitting up here. So whether that's true, whether it's not true, side conversations, I would just say, are that. Side conversations, but we're gonna know about it up here. We've heard about them, and it's not constructive or productive for the entire process. So with that, do we want to make a motion or not make a motion, or have further discussion? Greg?
I just got a couple more comments. I mean, I think we all say we want to help them, we're going to help them and do this, but we're hamstringing them right now. Right now is their time during season to do fundraising.
Right.
And between Amy and Peter, you guys keep saying that there's
Greg,
more questions and you've got ideas. What are the ideas? I'm trying to figure it out. On one hand, Amy's saying that the $240,000 is a lot of money and,
Well,
they can't do the capital. So then the way I'm feeling that she's leaning, and I could be totally wrong, but we're not hearing it, is that she wants less of a payment or not as much. So I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, this is their fundraising time during season. They're not going to do much fundraising come June, July, August, September, the slow time of the year.
Right.
If right now they don't have a solid commitment of what we're going to do, they don't know. Come June, July, or after we all do our due diligence and maybe go look at it, and maybe Amy asks this question and I don't ask that same question, I don't get the same answer.
Excuse me, can I ask a point of order? If I could ask the public to sit down?
Sure.
And it's just, we want to help them, but it feels to me right now from January till April, May is their fundraising time when the season people are here.
Right.
If they don't have a definite answer from us, I think it's going to hurt them more than it's going to help them.
Right.
Peter?
Yeah, so I've had a problem from an issue from the beginning with this one suggestion by staff being read as some kind of a litmus test on support for the Wonder Gardens. That's why I reached out to the board, including Dennis Gilkey, Trish Leonard, Marjorie Backey, and others, and said, please don't read one suggestion as an up or down litmus test. I can tell you from one council's point of view that I think more diligence needs to be done with respect to that, but I am absolutely committed to having the Wonder Gardens not just persevere, but fully flourish. And I'm trying, and I think Council, I won't speak for her, but I hear her saying similar things, and Councilman Slackter as well. So I think this concept of this as a litmus test, Greg, is misplaced. I'm not saying from your perspective you don't properly see it that way. In other words, I know what they need is a sense from this board that we're fully committed to having them flourish. Obviously, we're not going to foreclose on this. Councilwoman Carumba made this comment at the last meeting. It's obvious we're not going to foreclose and turn this into something that, whatever, all right? So, to me, this is all positive energy to try to make it better. And I'm not in a position to discuss ideas here until I think those are fully, I mean, if you want, we can, but I think what counts.
Are we looking at maybe lengthening a loan, smaller thing? I mean, that's, I guess, one.
Well, I'll tell you,
my feeble mind can't handle.
Well, it's not feeble, you know that. All right, so.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't
Right.
understand if.
Well, let me take a.
Staff and Wonder Gardens come up with this idea.
Right,
or this
of a
concept.
loan extension.
Yeah.
All right.
And I can't, in my mind, I can't fathom something
Different?
than that.
All right,
That
well-
works for both parties.
All right, well, let me take a shot at it.
I was gonna say, and let each other speak, gentlemen. I know it's
I'm sorry.
it's a healthy exchange,
No, go
but
ahead.
yeah, respect each other's space.
We respect each other's space.
I know you do. I know you
No,
do.
I'm just
but
trying, help me understand what you're
All right,
thinking.
fine.
Help
That's
me
my
help you.
question.
And let me
For
try
both
to
of you
let
guys.
me try to do this in a nutshell.
Yeah.
All right. So the first overriding point, it needs to be said every minute through this discussion, we're all committed to having the Wonder Gardens fully flourish. All right. That's the context. All right. So the first point is we were presented something that we saw for the first time that was a major commitment from the city at the last meeting without any backup. All right, we hadn't had briefings on it. That was a fact, all right? So, from my perspective, it's just a fact. I'm not, just a fact, all right? So, from my perspective, what I owe to the citizens and to the Wonder Gardens is to look into that and understand it. I agree with with Amy, that you've got to come out of this with an absolutely realistic appreciation that those payments can be made, all right? That's point one. And I think there's an honest question about that, okay? Point two is, I do think from talking to the people who have worked so hard at this at the Wonder Gardens, that as a practical matter, the notion of raising money to pay the government is a bit of a tough nut, all right? That continues to exist with respect to this loan extension obligation. It makes the sack of potatoes in your back a little lighter, but it's still a sack of potatoes on their back, all right? So that's point two. Point three is, and this point has already been made on this dais today, that to me, the most important thing is to really have it fully flourish, all right? That means a vision. I've talked some about it the last meeting. The new executive director with the board have a vision of this as a beautiful botanical gardens. To me, I'd like to see more of that vision come to more real life, all right, in terms of detail, and a capital plan attached to it. So this point is, I'm thinking realistically, the money that they are raising really should be dedicated more toward making it fully flourish, not paying off the sack of potatoes on their back, which is a tough haul, all right? So what are the options with respect to that? One option is the possibility of the city owning it, just like Collier County owns the Naples Zoo, and having this great group of people be able to spend their energies with respect to making it even better. But, so that's a possibility. So maybe
No, I agree, and
so maybe that answers your question. In other words, what else would we be thinking about? I am not at the point, and I gather this is what Peter had I'm not at the point of suggesting that. I'm at the point of exploring that. Okay. And somehow that exploration, which you've got to do, all right, has inadvertently turned into like, well, there's a plan or something. No. It's surely something that I'm thinking about, but I wouldn't presume to speak for council, obviously, and I would only bring it to council if it were a fully thought out idea. So, does that answer?
No, and I agree with that, and I would love for the
that's
the
other
city
option.
to do it like that.
That's
agree.
another. But that, in answer to your question, I think, Greg, that is one of the. But there may be other. But that's the other option I'm exploring. But I'm not in the position of bringing it forward because I wouldn't. Just like I was concerned about. Well, forget about what I was concerned about.
Well, the rumor mill's going to run all over us.
Yeah, I think what this council owes from any council person, including myself, is a fully thought out suggestion, not, oh, what do you think about this?
Right.
So,
Right.
that's right.
And I guess going back to asking Dennis, or the Wonder Gardens, if we do nothing today, is that going to harm their fundraising? That's my biggest
Our
concern.
discussion is, though.
Yeah, no, I know, and I'll say it again. This is,
It's
updates
awful.
are critical, but the timing could not be worse on this. Amy?
Yeah, we
Go
should have
ahead.
had the green sheet last.
Right, I mean, I
We
can't
should have
remember
had
the
it-
last time
we
we've
should-
had something without a green
we
sheet.
should
So
have-
in
well,
and
we
of
should have
itself,
had-
that
Can you
suggests
imagine?
something.
We should have had the proposal after their fundraiser, but I'm not trying to get an option here. I'm still trying to figure out a way that we can get our loan repaid and also have them have the capital to do what has to be done. This is where I'm not prejudging.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not prejudging where we are. So this is why I think I need more time because, to tell you the truth, the proposal that was brought to us, I don't think that's doable. I think that's another something that we're going to have to address, and we might not have to address it in a year or so, but we will definitely, in my opinion, address it when the balloon payment is due in 5 years. So what's the point? Let's just face up to that and try to do it in a way that either has more time. I don't know, you know. There's so many questions about this, so this is why I don't think I'm ready to, I'm going to vote no if we're going to do Fred Forbes' proposal because I don't think that proposal is viable. And I don't want to have these discussions here. I really, I've said this 20
Gotta have
times
them
already.
somewhere.
Right.
And we're still having them, and I don't mind having them on. We could have a whole meeting talking about this, where I'll make all my list of questions, and we'll have people who, know a lot more about this than I do, can respond to it.
Can I make a, I'm sorry, Amy.
Yeah.
But all I'm going to say is I'm fully in support of the Wonder Guards. That's why I don't want to spend my time doing this, you know. I have other things to do.
Right.
But now I've committed to it, and I'm going to see it through, and I'm just, I can't, I have to do other things once in a while.
Yeah. No, I understand. And if I may suggest, and I just wish we could roll back and wipe out this discussion, because unfortunately, the Wonder Gardens has to endure a story in the newspaper
Right,
tomorrow
exactly.
morning on the eve of their fundraiser.
So be kind.
Listen to my words when I tell you I am so sorry that happened. I'm sorry about that, for one, but I think what we need to do is schedule a special meeting, a workshop, whatever we want to call it, where all 7 of us are up here. And Amy, I appreciate, and Peter, your diligence, believe me, I do. But that meeting on that Friday afternoon when only 2, that's a start. That's a start. We now need to schedule a time, date certain when all 7 of us can be here. We have a special meeting, we have a discussion, we have public input. And Naples Daily News, I love you. Please be gentle on them tomorrow. Tomorrow's their fundraiser, okay? Fred, go ahead, please.
Come on, Tad.
I have no problem doing that.
Okay.
I think it would have been nice to have at least approved that as a minimum, because we can always change it. We had plenty of time.
Okay,
Are we
Steve,
in a position to make a motion?
do we need to?
We have
Well, I'd
two.
like to make a motion that this council is fully supportive of the Wonder Gardens, appreciates the hard work that their board has done, and wants to evolve a structure that has this great organization fully flourishing. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
Second that. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilman Slackton.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye. Wonderful. And I apologize, Councilman, Commissioner. See, we're getting everybody's titles here. We have Congressman O'Flynn and we have Councilman Kiker here with us. Commissioner Kiker is here. Could you come forward at this time and say hello and thank you for being here. I'm sorry I didn't notice you earlier. Yeah, and County Manager Roger DeJarlais is here as well. Thank you for being here. Hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine. How you doing?
Good. What time did you get here? I didn't see you.
We've been there for about 2 hours.
Okay. So you got there at 8:30. I'm sorry. I saw you when you got up. I'm sorry I didn't see you earlier.
No,
and
that's
thanks
fine.
for
You
being
want to
here.
join the conversation about that?
Yeah.
Did he bring his beef?
Did
you bring the blueberries?
You know what?
Checkbook.
I didn't bring any blueberries. I did not.
I was
did
going to
not.
ask if you had any money for the Wonder Guards.
Oh, yes, he does.
You know, you could start a blueberry garden there. You could do that. Well, good luck on your fundraiser, too, because I know that's a very important property and a project for this town and for the county as well. So I actually enjoyed that. Also with me, along with Roger DeJarlais, who is the county manager, assistant county manager, Glenn Sawyer, is along as well. And Glenn is our go-to man for anything that has to do with state or federal lobbyists and all the rules and everything that goes on. So and you'll see why I have him with me here in a second. We just left a Estero Village meeting. And the reason we were there is that we have a topic that we wanted to bring forward to you called Edison Farms. I know there's been a lot of conversation about that, and what we hope to do today is to get everybody on the same page. So everybody knows what's going on, because that is such an important property for the county and obviously for your town specifically. But you know, there's so many people that have this on their radar, whether it's commercial, whether it's residents, whether it's the conservation groups, it doesn't matter. This property is on everybody's radar. And why it has taken so long may go back, I'll just remind somebody, 2011, the property was selling for $171 million. And we did appraisals on the property to the tune of $30 million, so it didn't go very far. And then there's been some work. Cecil Pendergrass, back in 2013, had an effort to try to do something with the Edison Farms. Problem we ran into is we didn't really know who owned it. And so it's kind of had a sketchy past in terms of ownership. To include a foreign country actually owned that property for a while. So it was kind of hard to negotiate along that line. But recently, as you are aware, that property has become available for purchase. And there was a call to offer, which means that there is no price set on that property. What it means is that if somebody wants to buy it, then they need to put together a price and some sort of a package that they could entertain. When that happened, your representative Ray Rodriguez, along with Roger and his staff, myself, and in one meeting included a meeting with Land Solutions, who is the broker for that property, and we talked about possibilities in terms of how could we purchase it. That included funding that might be possible from the state or federal. And we came to a conclusion that says it's probably not going to be possible because it just takes too long. When you look at the requirements and the timelines that are required in order to secure funding from those two places. So it's really boiling down to what can the county do and what can the municipalities do in terms of can we buy this property. So with what I call a compressed timeline, because they were asked, they asked if this property, they were going to take a look at these for up, I think, to the end of March. That's when they wanted to look at any offers. And so looking at the 2020 program, if you recall, about a year ago, we changed the nature of the program itself. So before it was only a willing seller program, which means that they have to be the ones that say, would you like to buy my property? We changed the characteristics of that program to allow us to reach out to what we acknowledge as strategic properties that we'd like to have on the program, in our program, the 2020 program. So that change was made, and this allows us to make a move on this property now. Now, having said that, one of the things that we did as a Board of County Commissioners is 2 years ago. I would say that I like to call it a laser focus on what can we do to buy that property. We made it our strategic initiative as we lobby for state and federal funding going forward. But in order to make the next move, the Board of County Commissioners, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had a discussion, and we voted unanimously to direct staff to proceed with trying to buy Edison Farms. Now, if you go back and you look at the 2011 appraisals, they suggested, and we said yes to, let's go back and update those 2 appraisals. And generally speaking, in this process, if the appraisals end up being more than 20% different, then we do a 3rd appraisal. Just in abundance of caution, we went ahead and asked for the 3rd appraisal up front. So we're going to get all of that out of the way because, again, this is a compressed time. We have to act on this property as fast as we can. So all that's happening. So because of all of this, because of the competition that this might bring forward, we've kept a very low profile. I don't know if you noticed that, but we kept a very low profile. We don't want to create interest with other developers, if you will. And also, if we get a lot of people coming out saying that they want it so badly, we worry about the price going up. So, you know, we recognize and we acknowledge the folks that have been valuable in the past and in the future in terms of their needs and their requests. But, you know, let's be real honest with each other at this point in time. Everybody wants this property to go into the 2020 program. everybody. So we got it. We know it. We got the ball, and we're going forward with it. So we appreciate any groups acknowledging that process. Now, the other reason that I am here is I'd like to clear up some of the information that's been circulating. And one of them had to do with a thing called 951. And I will tell you that there has been no conversation about 951 regards to this property. No conversation whatsoever. Okay? Second one is we were going to take the property, split it up, sell some of it off to a developer, and then just keep what we need. There has been no discussion about splitting up this property whatsoever. So, if you just look at what the definition of Conservation 2020 property, just definition alone, tells you that when we buy this property, it goes into conservation in perpetuity. Got it?
Got it.
That's the bottom line. If there were ever to be a change to that, it would require a super majority vote from the Board of County Commissioners. I am not a vote counter, but I will tell you, I can look up to all the way down where the folks that I sat with. That's not going to happen. Can't speak. This is when somebody says, can you guarantee? I can't speak for what's going to happen 15, 20 years from now. Just can't do it. So the other thing that, I'd like to point out and is that if and when this property becomes a Conservation 2020 program, then it goes into what we call a master maintenance program. Costs a lot of money. And just by the fact that you have a piece of property and you change the owner to it, that doesn't fix very much on that property. So what that means is that we, in that program, identify where public access points would be so that you can get to it. What are the recreational benefits that some might design? We have some places where they got horse riding, all kinds of things. Removal of exotic plants, and then things that might have to be accomplished in terms of reestablishing water flow back to the natural settings and any water quality components that we have. So again, that's why we are here, is to let you know where we are with this program and answer any questions, concerns that you might have. Yeah. And I appreciate you guys having us here.
No, I appreciate that very much, and I'll just kick it off by saying thank you. You have been transparent. You have been open. I know myself, you and I have a free-flowing dialogue on this and several other topics, as does your county manager. And Glenn, I didn't see you back there, Glenn, so welcome. And Glenn, you and your team do a wonderful job. You do, you do the yeoman's work. You dig into the issues. You come to Bonita Springs. You go on field visits, if you will. You get your hands on it, and you put your hands on it to wrap your mind around it, so you know what's going on. And I just want to commend you for your hard work. We love having you as our county commissioner. You took the call to duty very seriously. You listen. You have to listen to a lot of people, but for one, I know you listen to us. I know you are working very, very hard, and extremely smart for the county, and I just want to thank you for that and applaud your efforts. And with that, Council, Amy?
I just want to add my thank yous to your efforts here and the support that you have for this project that we, of course, support also. And everything is appreciated, and continue the good work, and we hope that the county is successful here.
Right. Greg?
Thank you very much for all your hard work and staff's hard work on all you guys do for us down here, including the library.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ditto, same here. Appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. Peter?
Don't appreciate anything. No, Larry, thank you.
You got to keep this guy out of my office.
I just wanted to say ditto on everything everybody has said here, but also I was going to give a report on Sun Trail later. And Nick Betos and I had a meeting with Larry, and he had Roger and Randy Searchy there, an hour and a half of their time. very much appreciated, well, more than appreciated. Working together as a team collectively to do what's best for Bonita, Estero, and all of Lee County. So thank you, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for your work, too.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mike?
Just to echo everybody else, thank you.
Yeah,
And,
mine.
and Fred, last but
No,
not least?
I really want to thank Larry for coming and clarifying all these rumors, because there were significant rumors around.
Mhm.
So
Right.
you coming has really put the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Wonderful.
Thanks for having us,
Absolutely.
and come visit anytime.
Thank you, and thank you for picking up the phone when we call.
You bet.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Commissioner, appreciate it very much. Okay, let's see. We are down onto the second reading. Is that right, where we are now?
Yes, we are.
Second reading and public hearing.
I'm sorry, but I had a few other council items, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah. One is, I think it's important to clarify something here. So, under the Sunshine Law, obviously, we all can't meet unless it's noticed. And we've had occasions where, so what happens if one council member wants to speak to the other, or if one council member wants to speak to staff? But there could be economies of scale of other council members participating as well. What we've evolved is we sunshine that meeting. So if you remember, that's what happened at budget time when we were spending hours on that, and certain of us wanted to spend more time with staff and said, if anybody else wants to attend, they can attend. That's a good thing. That's under sunshine, okay? It's happened several times. Recently, there was a notice that I think it was Amy and Fred were both involved in economic development, and so they met under the Sunshine Law in room 118. That's a good thing. So anybody's free to go, but those two people happen to be talking. I think they were talking with Tiffany Esposito, all right? Same thing happened on the Wonder Gardens. Coming out of the Tuesday meeting, I said I was anxious to dig in with respect to the financials. I know Amy Carumba felt the same way. So, I could have met with staff independently for an hour and a half, and then she could have met independently with staff for an hour and a half. But under the Sunshine Law, it's more efficient to notice that, and anybody is free to attend. So I think it's important that people understand that. This is the requirement that we have under the Sunshine Law, and it's more transparency, not less transparency. Sorry, that's all my statement is. Thank you.
I understand, but this was an excellent time for me to bring up a point, and you're 100% correct.
Thank you.
It meets the Sunshine Law.
Right.
We also have an administrative code that specifies, and I apologize, I just looked it up
Right.
the other day. When a special meeting of city council, which could be 2 council members, is called, it needs to be called either by the mayor or by consent of the majority of city council. So it's good if it's done during this meeting to say, I want to call it.
I don't think
But-
it's a special meeting of city council. In other words, what,
Well, and there's no definition.
right, and there's no decisions being made. So if you think we should, everything we've done,
We may wish to.
and all the examples we've given
Sure.
have been run through council, have been run through staff. So if we need to change the process, fine. I'm just explaining to my colleagues on council not to misread what happens. That's all.
Right, and I'm not disagreeing with you,
Thank
sir.
you.
What
Thank
I'm
you.
trying to point out is we may need to modify how we address these types of meetings so that councils adequately can attend, or other council members, without causing any kind of roadblock or any kind of problem.
Right,
But
so
you're
if you-
right, it does
right.
meet Sunshine Law.
Right, if you think it needs to be adjusted, tell us. In other words, we've done it, after consulting with staff and asking
Right.
about what the proper sunshine and other requirements are.
And
That's all, I just wanted to make that point to my council members. Is that?
Yeah.
Because I think, Peter, it sounds like from what you were saying, it was a misunderstanding.
Well, and I think an
Yeah.
important in that process
Right.
is a roll call. It's been suggested that we meet Friday at 3 o'clock. Are you available to attend? I think that needs to be a part of it, not just, we're having a special meeting Friday at 3. If you can make it, great. If you can't, oh well.
What,
Lodgie, can I make a suggestion? This is among council members, all right? Thank you. I'm not asking for it. I was just trying to explain what happened, all right? If we need to change processes going forward, we can handle that later in the meeting, or if you want to bring something up to do it. I'm just trying to explain what.
Understood,
Right,
and I'm just
right.
trying to put in the stopgap that all 7 members ought to be asked if they're available at a certain date and a certain time to increase participation.
And I think that's what Audrey was saying in the administrative code. It's either got to be by all of us or the mayor's has to call the meeting. I think that's what she was
right,
suggesting.
there has to be consent.
Well, then we should change what we're doing. Carl, anything to add?
Well, I just want to clarify that what Audrey was talking about under the administrative code, by the mayor or a majority of the council calling the meeting, that is for an established city council meeting. Okay, what we're talking about here is something that would be handled on a one-on-one basis, but you happen to have 2 council members or more who want to attend. It is simply a discussion. It's typically question and answer. It's fact-finding, those kinds of things that would normally be done one-on-one. What's been happening is there's opportunities when council members can come at the same time, and that meeting occurs, and the rest of the council are made aware of that in case they want to participate as well. But it's not an official council meeting. We're just trying to keep ourselves covered under the sunshine law the way we understand it.
Very good. Audrey?
I would just say, and again, I don't have a problem with the process. I'm trying to explain what we may wish to do is amend the administrative code to have something. In a prior experience, we had what we called a service delivery meeting, where it would be an agenda posted, whichever it would not be the full board, and whoever wished to attend that particular meeting, it would not be a majority of council, but they would be able to let people know this is the fact finding, or this is where they want to go into the weeds, or however you wish to discuss it, the additional detail necessary for them to formulate their thought process.
Can I make a suggestion? You provide us with a memo of what the legal requirements are, and if they're different than what we've been doing, immediately inform us.
That's what I was trying to.
Well, no, because this process that we have been having has been approved by staff.
You're right.
All right, thank you. So just, please, we don't want to be doing anything inappropriate.
Right, absolutely. Fred, did you have something?
Yeah, I do. I think there's 2 kind of meetings. I think there's meetings like the economic development meeting that Amy and I had with Tiffany, and I think Carl was there. That was not a major issue. I think when we're going to have meetings where we're talking about something significant, like we just spent an hour and a half talking about, we ought to make an effort to, at a meeting, say we're talking about having a meeting on X, Y, Z at this time, so everybody's got a chance to see if they can fit it in their schedule.
Okay. Council, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, Peter, anything else? Okay, very good. Now we'll move on, I guess, to this. Amy? I'm sorry.
I said we're going to have a lot of meetings.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, we got important stuff to tackle, so thank you, everybody, for that. The second reading and public hearing of the following ordinance, and public comment is allowed.
Thank you. Let me read the title blocks into the record. There's actually 2 ordinances, but I believe staff will be asking for continuance on these. So the 2 items should be called together, 9A and 9B. And this is an amendment to the Bonita Springs Land Development Code, Chapter 3, Development Standards, amending Section 3-292, Traffic Impact Statements, providing for conflicts of law, severability, codification, Scrivener's errors, inclusion in code, and an effective date. This is a second reading, which was continued from December 7th, 2016, January 4th, 2017, and today's February 15th, 2017. I believe staff is requesting a continuance to March 15th or April. Okay.
Actually, we're looking to move this as far back as council is comfortable. I think that the reason we were looking for continuance as opposed to just starting the process new would be to save advertising costs. There's no reason to spend that money again. But if you remember correctly, there were a lot of concerns that came up the last time we had this discussion. There's also a lot of moving parts concerning transportation, and a lot of questions are unanswered, both on your part and on our part. I would like to be more comfortable with answering those questions before we start modifying how we're going to change our traffic study. I do think that it is needed that we change this. I think our standards are out of date. I don't think that they're adequate for achieving our goals, but I don't think that we have enough information on existing or projected situations to adequately describe that proposed process. So if council would indulge us, we would ask that you continue this. I would recommend probably a period of 6 months, but that is entirely up to you.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, council, what's your
Candidate certain.
pleasure? Sound all right?
Yeah, if
And
he's not
you-
comfortable
If you were
going
looking
forward.
for, I've already done the research. If you're agreeable to 6 months, August 16th would be,
John, that would be A and B.
yes, sir.
Okay. Council, okay?
Yep.
Nod of the heads? Okay. Do we need formally vote on this? Is it?
Yes, you
Okay.
do.
I'll,
So-
I'll make the motion. Or go ahead, Audrey, I'm sorry.
You're continuing to a time and date certain the ordinances that have been previously advertised to August 16th, 2016, to be held at 2017, to be held at 9 a.m. in these chambers. That will be both the amendment, which I have read you the title block, as well as the resolution that would create an administrative code for traffic impact statement guidelines.
And that was August what, I'm sorry?
August 16th, 2017.
Great.
at 9 a.m.
Wonderful.
And I will keep all of you up to date as we go along, because I said there are multiple moving parts associated with this, and I like to keep everyone up to date, so that way it's not just a drinking from the fire hose moment.
Great, that's wonderful. And Steve had made the motion to accept, and I'll second that. Further discussion, council? Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba. Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilman Slakta.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Wonderful. Okay, moving on to item 10. Oh, wait a second, I apologize. There's public comment allowed on this.
And
All right.
That fits deferred, right?
I think if you've continued the conversation, I don't think you require
Okay,
that public comment.
just making sure. Don't want to breeze right along here. Okay, item 10, public hearing.
We do think it's required.
Oh, we think it's required. My apologies. Public comment at this time?
Audrey, that's correct?
It would be required, just have the record open, and then you can close the record
Okay.
right after, so I presume it's all done.
Any member of the public? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. Item 10, the public hearing to adopt an ordinance to amend the Bonita Springs Comprehensive Plan for the CSX Seminole Gulf Rail Corridor.
Thank you. This is an ordinance of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, amending the City of Bonita Springs Comprehensive Plan as adopted by ordinance number 02-16 as amended, so as to update certain elements to encourage multiple uses of the railroad corridor, adding objectives and policies to the future land use element, transportation element, and recreation open space element, adding the CSX Seminole Gulf Rail Corridor map, and to the transportation element, providing a conflicts clause and severability clause, and providing for an effective date and other purposes. This is the hearing that's post-transmittal. Staff will provide you with the backup in a few moments. I have reviewed the affidavit of publication. It is legally sufficient and on file with the clerk's office. Dolmer?
John Dolmer.
This is an item I think all of you remember that Bill Spakowski had presented to you a long time ago, and had said that this was an item that he wanted to work with all of the local municipalities, the counties, to come up with a common vision for the rail corridor and how we would like to see that developed or redeveloped going into the future, or at least utilized. The item was transmitted from this council to the state. The only real comments we received back from the state were from the Department of Transportation, whose comments are included in your green sheet, and they had several concerns that they wanted us to address. I know that one of the key points of this is that everybody has, and I say everybody, all the municipalities that are associated or have this rail corridor have similar type statements. Otherwise, the impact of this is minimal. And one of the things I think that is under consideration right now is a joint meeting with the Village of Estero, and this, I've heard, could be one of the topics of discussion. So if council wants to give me direction if you would like to proceed today or if you would like to continue this to see what comes out of that discussion, I am willing to do whatever you desire.
Okay, council?
Move
Can I
to
make a-
continue?
Can I make, sorry?
Move to continue?
Yeah, I would second that, and maybe I can provide a little more.
Yeah, okay, there's been a motion and a second. Discussion. Yeah.
No, just to what John has said, and I'll fill council in later on, later in this meeting, on the Sun Trail and more about that. But as I've been working with Nick Bedos and with the possibility of a Sun Trail, there are aspects of this that may need to be tweaked a little bit. And I talked to Arlene yesterday, who talked to Margaret Banyan, and I obviously has talked to you. This does not have to be done now. We can extend this. We have till June to do it, is what she told me.
Correct.
And that's well within the envelope of the time we need to figure out what we're doing with respect to Sun Trail and the aspects of it that relate to this. And I will tell you, the two, without getting in all the detail now, the two specific assets relate to the concept about trail abandonment and rail banking and issues of freight there. So,
great, wonderful.
And I think if you were looking at a continuance, the continuance date would be the second meeting in May, if I'm not mistaken.
And we
Because
could
that would
call
allow-
it sooner if we wanted to, if we needed to.
Correct, you
Yeah.
could. You
Okay.
could, but you would not want to push it any further back
So
than
Steve,
that.
if I could add that to the motion? Okay.
Please.
Okay, wonderful.
So, we have an advertised hearing. Are we going to re-advertise it then? Because we're not setting a date, or do you?
No,
wish
no, I
set a
wish
date?
to establish a
Right.
date. I don't have my
You said
calendar.
the
with me.
second meeting in May, you said.
The second.
That would be
meeting in-
May 17th?
To May
I don't know.
17th.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. May 17th or thereabouts, John, does that sound good? Okay. Council, further discussion?
No, sir.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba? Councilman DeWitt?
Aye.
Councilman
Aye.
Slakta? Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye. Okay, great. Public comment at this time. Any member of the public? Rick, how are you?
Yeah, Rick Steinmeier. My understanding of the Sunshine Law is when you guys all get together to talk, you gotta have a public announcement.
Right.
If the public's invited, it's not just you guys get invited, that you're worried about you getting invited. How about inviting the public? I think that's what makes it takes it out of the back
You're
room.
preaching to the choir, Rick.
Yeah, okay. As far as the Wonder Gardens, my suggestion that the city take it back to live by the contract that they wrote is my idea. I didn't hear it up downtown or anything. You're talking about somebody else. I speak for myself. I think it should be on the table because it gives the pressure on them to do something, to get it done. If the people want the Wonder Gardens, $3 million isn't that much money for all those rich people in Bonita. Make your own mortgage. Do their own mortgage. Just pay the city back. The taxpayers are out $3 million. We gave them $3.5 million to buy a $2.9 million project, and then they took the $600,000, spent some of it, and gave us back our own money as a payment. I didn't realize that when we did it in the first place. It's quite a deal. What a sweetheart deal. I hope it works out. But it wasn't a rumor that I started or heard about the Wonder Gardens. I hope they can get it squared away because I've known the Wonder Gardens since the early 50s. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thanks, Rick. Deborah, good morning.
Hi, Deborah McLean speaking. I love that song, Rumors by Adele. You should always call what you think the source. With regard to an overview of all the things that have happened on Old 41, without Carl Swing's innovative contact to the county and the underlying instrument for financing the Old 41 project, without the city's $24 million, and remember, we're paying interest to the county. It's a nice loan vehicle, by the way. And without the approximate $6 million of local constituents and individuals from other cities who have recently invested, we really have $30 million tied up already in its taxpayers' money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to ask you, this is an old real estate hammer close. It's crude. Are you ready? Would you truly queer the success of the Old 41 corridor by killing the Wonder Gardens, the only attractor to tourism, which is new money, head count, restaurants, ice cream cones, bicycles, it goes on, would you queer this deal for 1%, the $3 million? The answer in real estate world is absolutely not. No matter how you figure it out, you will not queer this deal, because then you will be guilty of spending $24 million, spending the county's money, and killing investors. So you will not queer the deal. Is the press still here?
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Well, hello there. How are you, Susan?
I'm Susan Bridges. I'm the president for the Centers for the Arts, Bonita Springs, and obviously also a resident here since '87 and a taxpayer. And I have a statement that I would simply like to read, but I did bring copies for council so that you can take a look at the backdrop paperwork and where that research documents came from.
Great, thank you.
My visit this morning is to provide facts which will correct what I feel was a misstatement made by Councilman Gibson at the City Council meeting February 1, 2017. He said, and I quote, "Even the promenade with the large event there, they had to ask that large event," meaning the festival, not to go there anymore because it was hurting the businesses. We had 27 Bonita Springs National Art Festivals at the promenade from January 2000 to March 2013, and at no time did the promenade ask us to leave because we were hurting businesses. The first festival was so great for businesses that in 2002 we added a March festival. January and March events were ranked number 5 in the nation in 2004. During the prime years, there were about 40 or more retail operations in the promenade. The owners of the promenade were very much aware of the retailers' revenues, and occupancy was close to 100%. If the festivals were bad for business, do you really think they would have allowed the festivals to continue? The festivals increased traffic, brought new faces to the center, and the retailers did things to attract those people into their stores. November 2011-2006, Coconut Point grand opening. The Great Recession, which officially lasted from December 2007 to June 2009, began with the bursting of an $8 trillion housing bubble. The resulting loss of wealth led to sharp cutbacks in consumer spending. A majority of the promenade stores closed during those lean years. A February festival was added to help increase traffic. The centers, in an effort to support the remaining tenants there, supplied and managed local artists who filled vacant stores. We also filled a vacant restaurant and created a performance center to help them bring traffic. We support those who support us. February 2012, the promenade goes to U.S. Bank National Association. And in August of 2012, RLR Investments purchases it for $5 million. Our final festival at the promenade was March of 2013. At that point, the promenade had very high vacancy rates. For years, the city of Bonita Springs has asked us to move to the Bonita Springs National Art Festivals to Riverside Park, downtown area. We reluctantly agreed, but we were assured by the city that they would help us in every way possible to make the transition easy. I am here to provide the actual facts and hope that that will also go on record, just as the previous statement was on record. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Susan. Other members of the public? Good morning.
My name is Barry Witt. I have owned a home in Bonita Springs and been a taxpayer since 1987. I was a volunteer, and when the city became a city, I was asked to volunteer for the Special Events Committee because of my background. Some of the things that I'd just like to bring up is I find watching city council meetings on television or whatever, a lot of things are stated as fact. I can't tell the difference between opinion and fact, let's put it that way. So when a councilman, and I'm not picking on you, Mike, but you're the one that I have expertise with, makes a statement, it should be either this is my opinion or here's the facts and be able to back up the facts. One of the things that was stated, and I have a background in this, is he talked about the retailers or the businesses in Naples on Fifth Avenue. You named how the festivals and the events hurt the businesses on Fifth Avenue.
Sir, if we can keep this general, please.
Well,
keep it general, please.
Okay.
Generic.
Okay.
Thank you.
To give you an idea, I'm the person that created the name, the Bonita, the Naples National Art Festival in 1993. I managed that festival through 2001. Simultaneously, in the year 2000 and 2001 with the Bonita Springs National Art Festival. Being a resident here, it sort of irked me, the fact that I was doing something down in Naples, drawing people out of Bonita Springs, where I live, and not improving the reputation of Bonita Springs. So my feeling is that comments shouldn't be made that are not real. I mean, for 23 years, they've had festivals down in Naples. The increase in Naples on the business was brought in by the business. The Art Association ran the Naples National Art Festival. They're the ones, I shouldn't say that. I ran it, they benefited from it. After seeing it, the Fifth Avenue Merchants Associated wanted them to come on Fifth Avenue. They actually didn't want to get involved. It was too much. It was, the festival was a big deal and it's too much work. So they didn't. An outside promoter came in, and he's the guy that started 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and God knows how many festivals. And I was in City Hall defending my festival in the park, just like I'm starting to do here. So obviously these festivals don't hurt business, because with 23 years of activity, they're still there. And the statements that you made were more or less that they're hurting business. So if you make a statement like that, I personally, with any of you, and me too, would like to see the facts. And we can show you facts. Just word of caution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public? Hello, Trish.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to say, Trish Leonard, President of the Everglades Wonder Gardens, and I wanted to say thank you for today's discussion. I think it is important, and I'm excited to hear that all of you are behind the Wonder Gardens. I want to let you know that we have sold out tomorrow night's event, so we have 250 wonderful folks that are going to be attending, and we're excited for what we're going to bring tomorrow night and in the future. And I want to thank Carl, because he really has been great to us, working with us as well. So thank you so much. Actually, he's got an auction item in tomorrow night. Forgot to bring your apron. But I wanted to say one thing. I think you mentioned that we used some of the money to pay back the city last year, and that's not correct at all.
Trish, up here. Thank you.
Thank you. That's not correct. So I just wanted to make sure he realized that it was many personal donations to help, and donors' money to help pay our first payment back. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. We've got valet parking, so wear your best duds. Thanks.
Thank you, Trish. And best of luck tomorrow night. Hello, Kathy.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. For the record, Kathy McGrath. And I like to do the fun things and lighten things up a little bit. I've already told you about Celebrate March 25th, but let me remind you about a few more other events coming up. Not all city ones, but still very, very important. This Saturday night is the Crew concert at Riverside Park. Crew, you know how important they are. And this is their way of showing people what they do, raising money. They have the auction and everything. And let's remember, Crew and South Florida Water Management are the ones that are protecting our drinking water supply. Not the DRGR, not Edison Farms, but Crew. And keep that in mind. And let me tell you, BSU is well ahead and thinking ahead, and I can tell you right now, they are in the process, I think they've started, of drilling new wells, not in the DRGR, near I-75 and to the west. And if you want to find out the locations, I'm sure you can call and find out. But they're ahead of the game. All right, that's the Crew concert. On the 25th, the cleanup. It's the old Keep the Beautiful in Bonita. February 25th, you meet at the Banyan, under the banyan tree. 9 o'clock, there'll be coffee and donuts. They'll give you all the stuff you need, the gloves, the pickers, the bags. Fortify yourself with donuts and coffee, and then go out and clean. They'll even give you, I think, maps. And then when you return, there will be hot dogs and drinks. And I think I've been told that I think Carl's going to cook the hot dogs, and maybe you too, Peter. No, I'm only kidding. I'm making that up.
You know how rumors get started
Yeah,
around
oh,
town?
we know
Yeah, right.
rumors. Miss Rumor. Anyway, I'm happy.
But I'd love to do that, sure.
Of course. And also, as always, the Imperial River Conservancy has partnered with the city. We'll have people going out. John Pano is wonderful. He does his own cleanups. He'll be there, so we'll have someone at the dock. And the Bonita Bay Boat Club, they've got their gang that always shows up, so we're excited about that. Next month, it's not a city thing, but let's remember the Blues Fest, March. I've got it here somewhere, Kathleen. The 10th and the 11th. And remember, the money they make goes to very worthy causes. I believe last year it was Music for Minors, the Golisano Children's Hospital, and I'm not sure, I think maybe the Assistant's Office. So put that on your calendar. And well, I believe that's just about it. That's all the fun things going on. But you know, there's something going on at Riverside Park, and please go down there and take a look. I know too, I can speak generically that I am aware of businesses that have really suffered with this revitalization. So don't avoid it, because a lot of the detours, yes, the one over the river is still there. They're now working from, say, the Bamboo property north. But go patronize the businesses. You know, go buy something, go get some bait, rent a bicycle, get an ice cream cone, take a look at things there, because it is really looking good. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kathy. Anybody else from the public? Okay, seeing none. City Attorney's report, please.
You're getting off easy.
Hello.
Good morning, Alex Boswell, Ebersole, Assistant City Attorney. For the record, staff here is seeking direction on a proposed ordinance. This ordinance was recommended for adoption by the Historic Preservation Board. Very basically what this ordinance does is it establishes a 90-day delay period whenever anybody comes into community development and asks for a demolition permit. And this delay period would affect properties that the board has deemed as historically significant. To be clear, these are not properties that are already officially designated as historic. There's 20-some in the city that have individual designation. If those were to come in for a demolition permit, they would have to get a certificate of appropriateness from the board, and there's a discretionary option for the board to add the delay. This would be an automatic delay. The Historic Preservation Board has already identified 170 properties that it would want on that list. And there are various mechanisms written into the ordinance that allow folks who would have this affect their property seek to be removed from that list or seek a waiver from any delay that would come out. So staff is just asking for direction on whether to proceed. The next step would be scheduling for local planning agency review.
Yep. Yes, Steve, please.
And please explain the purpose of that 90-day delay.
It's basically, as the board has expressed, it's a way for them to ensure that they don't, first of all, miss a property that they would like to have some input on. There's in the ordinance, the board would maintain a list of contractors, preservationists that the board could, and it's voluntary. I mean, the board could reach out to these folks and say, do you want us to get you in touch with a preservationist or the like, so that there could at least be pictures taken at the worst case scenario or some sort of preservation.
So there's nothing wrong with this? There's no negative thing about it? It's all good?
I mean, in the past, I guess the only city council had looked at this, I don't know, it was 3 years ago or something. It was a little longer than 3 years ago. It is allowing an advisory board to put this extra layer of review on properties. The only difference between an officially designated property and these is that an officially designated property, the property owner's coming into the board and asking for designation. This is the board making the decision on who's on the list.
So after 90 days, they have to make a determination whether or not it's historical or not? Correct?
No, after 90 days, the property could be demolished as the property owner's coming in.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I said, there's a lot of
that part. Yeah, okay.
Right, and so but there's mechanisms to reduce that amount of time as well.
Okay. Yes, Amy.
I think the last time that we talked about this, that the board was going to make a list. Has that list been made?
They have a list. It was initially based on the Janus report, which was a 2004 survey, essentially, of various properties over 50 years old. They've gone through and whittled that list down. I think at one point it was 400 some, went down to 220, now it's at 170 properties. A few we had a public workshop
Right.
at the direction of council December 1st of last year. A few property owners have come in since then and asked to be removed, and so the board has made a motion that they will remove those property owners from consideration on the list.
But the properties on the list have been informed that they're on the list.
They have.
I mean,
and
there has been a communication, yeah.
Yeah, they've all been sent official letters
Okay.
notifying, and anytime that a property owner would come in under this ordinance and ask for a delay, they would have to be noticed that, they could get an expedited review, that this is happening and why.
So there are a lot of protections for the property owners.
There have, and we've actually built more in since council last asked us to look at this last summer.
Okay, thank you.
Council? Mike?
I just had a question on page 5, the highlighted section saying demolition delay means the 6-month waiting period. I just wanted to make sure that we're not asking them to wait 6 months it's actually a 90-day, not 6 months.
Right, that's the delay period for that officially designated properties might have applied to them if the board chose to. That's not the delay period that relates to the 170 properties on the list. Because there'll be the 20 officially designated properties, and that's separate from the 170.
So that's the people that came forward and asked to be recognized as
right,
historic.
and which has already happened.
They have 6 months.
Yeah, and the
delay.
last
Okay.
2 properties since I've been here is Wonder Gardens and Water Tower has been redesignated. So those are the ones that are officially designated.
Okay, so everybody on this list, it's only a 90-day, and they do have outs. They can appeal it and things
I
like
have
that.
outs
And-
prior to pulling a permit, after pulling a permit.
And
yes.
even before considering demolition, they could come forth and say, I don't want to be on this list anymore, and give reasons to be considered being taken off the list.
Yeah, we've actually already gotten some requests for that.
Okay.
Mayor,
Okay.
do we need a motion on this? Do we need a motion on this, Audrey?
Yes, just to go forward, that you agree with this, and then,
To schedule for
we'll schedule for the
LPA review.
LPA, and then
If
permission
there's no
to
further
advertise.
discussion, then I will move that motion.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Carumba? Councilman DeWitt?
Aye.
Councilman Slackton?
Aye.
Mayor Simmons?
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Okay. Item B.
Item B is hopefully very simple, and that is whether or not city council wants to establish during, I call this the off-election cycle because it's seats 1, 3, and 5. It's not a citywide election, a charter review committee. I provided you with a copy of our Section 57 from the city charter, and it's not due yet, but if you did decide you wanted something for the election in 2018, it does take several months is an understatement to go through the process.
Okay. Well, thanks for bringing this up, and I know it goes back a few months. I've had a discussion with you and Carl as well. I think our city charter, by and large, is fantastic. I think one area that it's silent on, that we could make it tighter on, is if a member of city council serves for 8 years and they sit out a cycle, they can run again, correct? Is that accurate under the...
After 2 years, yes.
After 2 years, so not even really a cycle. They could theoretically move into a different district and run for city council again, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think that is the land of unintended consequences. I'm not sure if that was the original spirit of the law, and if it was, I think we should examine that and have discussions on that.
Sure, I can bring you, that section of the charter actually changed, so I can show you the older charter and then the current charter language on that, as well as the lawsuit that we had to defend regarding that matter and the court order.
Right. I mean, I think, it's certainly open for interpretation, But when you get, and certainly don't want to pick on Naples, but when you get, they're local and we can all understand it, right? Somebody sitting out a term and running again, and sitting out a term and running again, and the seesaw back and forth of council members and the mayor, I'm not sure that really was the intent. It very well may have been. I think when you look at the spirit of citizen legislature, not career politicians, when you look at the spirit of letting other people serve and step up to the plate, I think that's worth a discussion. And I think the timing on this is pretty good, so thanks for bringing this up.
Thank you. Do you want a memo on it? Do you wish to establish this? Do you want to handle this in 2018 versus 2020? Because there is cost associated when when we have the election not during a primary year, the city pays for that full election cost. If it seats 1, 3, and 5, the supervisor of election only handles that election in those districts, and we pay per voter, per registered voter, not per person who goes to the poll. So you double the expense when you do go citywide.
Sure, understood,
okay.
understood. And
Whether
I
it's
am
worth it or
open
not.
for a discussion with the council on that.
And there's two ways you can handle it. City council has a right to initiate their own charter amendments. Of course, anything in the, not anything in the charter, with a few exceptions, charter amendments have to be done by referendum. And you can do it either with the use of a charter review committee, which was something that was also added to the charter, some of this language that wasn't in our charter originally. Or you can, because we're not at the point where we're mandated to call them, or alternatively, city council can work on what they want the charter amendment. They can call for the referendum, and we can have that referendum question asked at your next election.
Sure. Council, what's your pleasure?
Audrey, what's the requirement?
The requirement is that every 10 years, at least every 10 years, you call up a charter review. Now, the only concern I have is because when working the timeline backwards, if you're holding this election in February of 2018, and I know talking about 1 year ahead of time sounds, why so long? The supervisor has to have it approximately, I believe, 60 days prior to the election to do his legal advertisements, which means I need to have ordinances and text and everything completed a month or so beforehand, which means I need to be formulating this sometime in the summer so that I have it ready for council's review, so council's not rushed and they can make qualitative changes or reviews. And then if you want that committee, there's that additional time. Now, you do not have a legal obligation to hold a charter amendments or referendum questions at this election. The next election, because of the fact that it is most cost beneficial, because I believe it's about 60,000 or so, is roughly the breakdown. I have to look at her for those answers. And it's only going to get more as we get more voters. It's something that if you do want to talk about, Councilmember Slakta brought up for the last election, but we didn't, we would have to rush in. We were looking at that issue, I believe, in October or November for the February ballot, an issue of compensation for council. So what we could do is if you could either set up, these are some of the ideas I have, I being city council, where changes, this is the ones where staff would make some recommendations. There are some things in our charter that you may want to have more fluidity, so it's either something that makes it easier for council to do by ordinance rather than by charter. And I'll give an example. Estero, talking about that compensation, Estero actually has something where they're able to make their compensation changes via ordinance because it says so in their charter. So whether council would want to do that, not want to do that, that could be a decision council could have, or alternatively, you could ask the charter review committee to study it.
There's no requirement to have a charter review? That's optional? Committee?
No. It is a requirement, but it's
Oh, it
not
is.
time yet. You know,
It's not the 10 years.
right.
Oh, and when you have to do it, you have to have a committee.
At least
Otherwise,
every
you
10
can
years.
change it without a committee. Oh, interesting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
When is the next election? Is it in March or in January? Or do we know?
Sometimes I don't know because it's usually when the presidential primary is
Primary,
being
and
held.
there's none that.
If there's no presidential primary, I believe we set it for, is it February? We try to keep it so your terms are
I
consistent.
thought it was the end of January, well, whatever.
But it'll be somewhere in that. But council does have the right, as long as it doesn't substantially change term times, you have the right to make that change to the charter without it being a referendum question.
Well, so in theory, could we save the taxpayers $60,000 and decide what I am calling a unintended consequence here of term limits? Would we be able to decide that, or would we want to that go, you know?
That would be the voters. What you're suggesting, and what's in other charters, is what they call the 8 is enough. So 2 terms, 8 is enough, you're done. Thank you for your service. It's time to have new knowledge. There's pros and cons to that type of ballot. That was looked at by the Charter Review Committee as well as council. As I mentioned, we had a lawsuit on that particular issue at the city's, I think in 2004. One of our residents brought that as a question. We've had quo warrantos, which is a extraordinary writ, which is the person's holding the office illegally, and to oust them from the position. So you could have, council could change it, but that was affirmatively done to allow the 16-year, as well as the language as far as being out 2 years. That was in our original charter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fred? Yes.
When you do a little research on this for our discussion, is it possible that this can be done in such a way, maybe it's an eligibility or whatever, that this would apply to everyone that's already gone before us? Because I don't think it would really be good to do this and then that only applies from that point forward, because there's a bunch of people that have already served that can still come back.
And I would need to do research. I do know that the research tends that whenever you are making somebody not eligible for running for office, the courts will interpret such language very strictly as far as trying to, because that is a right. You have a right to run for office
Right.
unless you have forfeited that right, like a felony, or you don't live in the community or
Right.
something like that. So I would need to do additional research before I could say
Right.
it could be retroactive.
Could you? That'd be great.
Yes, sir.
All right, wonderful. And I think I don't need to repeat myself anymore. I think you understand where I'm coming from. Yes, Amy, and then Greg.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just said that, there's some good points that are being made, and I guess one of the decisions we need to make is whether there's an urgency to it, because I think we technically have to have our charter revision in 2020, is that correct?
Yes.
So it's like a 2-year difference. And I think there might be other areas, as Audrey pointed out, that we might want to clean up or do that. And I do think that having a commission to review some opportunities here would be useful. So maybe the 2018 one might be coming too closely, and then besides, we'd have to spend $60,000. So rather than focusing on any particular issues that we want to do, I think I'd like to do it from a practical point of view way. So I'm sort of leaning toward 2020, but if somebody thinks there's an urgent issue, that we should go forward with it.
I think Audrey, when she comes back with some research, we can talk through that. But thank you, Amy, for that. Absolutely. Greg?
I kind of had the same sentiment as Amy. My only question back to Audrey was, if we do this in 2018, does it restart the clock?
As far at least every 10 years?
Yes.
I would say it would. As far as dissolution, so the last one, I believe that went to, I believe the charter amendments were in 2010. So I think you're okay, because that's the enacting date of when we started the 2018. So you definitely have time to go forward. And again, because it's at least every 10 years, I wanted to bring up the charter discussion, which is an uncomfortable, it's anytime you're taking things to the voters. There were other things that have come and gone. So if you wanted to do something, we certainly could do it, but it does take time to frame the issues because you don't want a challenge on a charter provision. And I would be using outside counsel to assist, to make sure, election lawyers, to make sure I'm following through correctly on these issues. But I can do the research. I can also bring back the compensation discussion if you wish to do something comparable to Estero, or give you the other alternatives. If there's any other big ones, let me know. And I can provide that as a memo to council, and if you want to have additional discussion, let me know.
Well, at one time, because we were talking about supermajority for certain.
That would actually make a good
That
one.
might be worth looking at.
Right.
Okay.
Good point, Amy. Very good point.
So there are a couple of things that we could talk about, but I think we need to, well, I need to figure out in my own mind how urgent they are, because everybody wants to save $60,000, you know.
Right. Anybody down this end of the, for other ideas for Audrey? Okay, and if, moving forward after the meeting or whenever you think of something, just talk to Audrey and.
Absolutely, at any time. So at this point, the direction is not to establish a charter review committee. Look at these issues, and then city council can determine if you want to add them to a ballot currently, or look at it for 2020 after. But look at the research first before we actually figure that out.
Great, great. Thank you for bringing that up, Audrey. Okay, city managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just kind of a few items today. First off, a review of the monthly capital projects report. Any questions? Nope. Okay, and I just have a couple that aren't on the agenda, and that is.
I think we ought to go through it line by line,
Okay.
Carl.
Ann Wright will come up here.
No, very good. Yeah.
Okay. Second thing is, the council is very concerned about the Art Fest and being able to accomplish that with the road open, Old 41 open. I will tell you that was accomplished this weekend. Crowds were good. I want to thank Laura and her team in particular for continuing to work hard on that. I want to thank Councilmember Gibson, who was integral in getting this pushed the way it was, so it was positioned well. And I want to thank the Sheriff's Office for being involved in being able to see the possibility that this event could happen safely with an open Old 41. So, and that did occur on Saturday and Sunday. I was there both days. Traffic flowed as best as it could, given the construction that was still underway. I think everyone was safe. The Sheriff's Department did a tremendous job of controlling traffic and pedestrians. So, and again, I've not received a report from the Center for the Arts in terms of crowds or sales or those kinds of things, and we're yet to see that. We've not even received a report yet about the Sheriff's Office, but it was carried off safely. The event went forward, and I just wanted to let you know that that has finally occurred, all right? One more show this year, and that will be the first weekend in March, I believe. And then the second thing I've got is just to kind of talk about the downtown. So just real quickly, the major problem right now, and has been for a while, has been the one-way bridge over the Imperial River. And I'm just happy to say that we are on schedule for that being concluded in about 2 weeks or so. And then we'll be back to a two-way bridge. And that will be helpful as well. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any questions for Carl, Council?
Just a comment, Carl. I was there. I couldn't believe the crowd, but I talked to Chad from the Sheriff's Department and also Bobby Hunter. Everything seemed to be running smoothly. So,
Great.
good bunch of people.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
I just had
Sorry.
a question, Carl. I know that they were supposed to inspect the traffic light at Burnwood and Old 41 today. Anything come of that?
Not to my knowledge. I've
Okay.
been in the meeting. I haven't heard anything.
Oh, it was from 7 to 9 they were supposed to do it.
So,
I
yeah,
thought you
I
may
haven't
have got
really
it
heard
before,
anything
that's all.
yet. Obviously, and for those of you who may not know, especially out in TV land, we do have an issue at Burnwood and Old 41, a landscaping truck with basically a grabber arm on it. Actually was not fully contracted on the truck. It hit the arm of the traffic light at that intersection and actually moved the pole itself. They hit it so hard. So our number one job was to be able to get the light operating again. That will be on a temporary basis, just to get the light operating, making sure the pole is safe and secure is part of the testing that Councilmember DeWitt's talking about, and that's happening today. If that pole has to be replaced, much like we've heard about other traffic lights in the city, when you have to build a new one, replace it, whatever you're doing, it's months and months away. But again, as long as that light's operating, we're in a lot better situation. So we're working hard on that. Obviously, that landscaping company will be, their insurance company is going to be paying for this. However, we may have to front those dollars in order to make sure that this, for public purposes, public safety purposes, everything's secure as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Steve?
Carl, the average traffic light is somewhere around 400,000? Is that what?
If you're doing, no, if you're doing an entire intersection, it's about 400,000. So if you're replacing one pole, you're probably upwards of 100,000.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, moving on to mayor and council members' report. This item is mine. Approve a resolution of the City of Bonita Springs, Florida, appointing a chair to the following boards and committees: Arts and Public Places Board, Bicycle Pedestrian Safety Advisory Committee, Historic Preservation Board, Street Light Advisory Committee, Technology Advisory Board, Tree Advisory Board, Veterans Committee, Local Planning Agency, Board for Land Use Hearings and Adjustments, and Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Special Events Committee. Mayor Simmons, green sheet, number 17-02-0086. And we all have this in front of us here. And Deb, thank you very much, and thank you for your persistence and keeping on me. That's good. That always works out well, so I do want to commend you and applaud you for that. And we have a list of names here, folks, which I'm happy to read off, but I do, for some of these, I simply took the recommendation of the board themselves. They kind of nominated a chair, if you will. And then for some of the others that didn't, I did offer input and recommendations for two people, and kind of through the process, some folks that I nominated for chair either said they were or they weren't interested, right, Deb? And with that, we ended up with the chair. So we did want to keep it open as much as possible for folks, but this is what we have for Arts and Public Places Board: Nigel Fullick. Bicycle Pedestrian Safety and Advisory Board: Sarah Baker. Historic Preservation Board: Dallas Revord. Street Light Advisory Committee: Dave Schmidt. Technology Advisory Board: Jim Kaufman. Tree Advisory Board: Janet Martin. Veterans Advisory Board: Bobby Hunter. Special Events Committee: Bobby Bird. Local Planning Agency: Sam Vincent. Board for Land Use Hearings and Adjustments and Zoning Board of Appeals: Roger Brunswick. So I'll read the list there. I'll obviously make the motion to accept this report. And there's been a second, and with that, we'll open it up for further discussion from council.
I just want to thank you for supporting Bobby Hunter. He's an outstanding chairperson for the Veterans Advisory Committee, so thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
Other than to say, all the rest of them are doing it, everybody's doing a great job there, and to be thanked.
Even Bobby Hunter.
Even Bobby Hunter. Particularly Bobby Hunter.
Particularly, okay. Great. Further discussion, council?
No, sir.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilman DeWitt.
Aye.
Councilman
Aye.
Slakta. Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn.
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Okay, and with that, do we want to start down there with Councilwoman Carumba, mayor and council
I
items?
said enough today.
You said enough?
No.
Anything
No,
else?
I did go to the art show, and it seemed to work perfectly well, and I was able to cross easily and park and get around, so I think the new procedure, from my view, was very good.
Great, great. Wonderful, thank you. Craig?
Nope, got nothing.
Okay,
Safe out there.
Steve?
Yeah, I got a quick one. Nicole is here. Nicole, I have a very active neighbor, Pam Ziegler, who's a pickleball player, and she can't wait. When do you expect our pickleball place to be done?
The YMCA hasn't given us a timeline on construction, but they are moving dirt currently. They are hoping by March, so that is their prediction, but I don't have, a drop deadline right now.
Okay, thank you.
But March, somewhere around March.
Somewhere at the end of March, we
Yes.
can expect to be
That's
done.
what we're moving forward towards.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Nicole. Peter?
Yeah, two things. One is a big thank you to Fred Forbes. I attended and listened as Fred spoke at the ECCL meeting about Edison Farms, and I expressed the view of this council very clearly and forcefully, including the importance of in perpetuity and including the importance of all 6 sections. So thank you, Fred. I just wanted to say that. The other thing is, I think this is the next meeting we're going to be having is the joint meeting with Estero on February 28th, so just give you an update on that. Our 2 speakers are going to be Dale Allen, who I mentioned before, head of the Florida Greenway and Trails Foundation. The other one is Don Scott, who, as you know, is the executive director of the Lee County MPO. And the general notion is that Dale will be giving an overview. He's an inspirational speaker as far as I'm concerned about this type of thing, and has done a lot, as I said, the last meeting in Florida. Don, much more detail, including, it turns out, Cape Coral on the Sun Trail has actually received $5.5 million for trails up in Cape Coral, so something for us to emulate there. The other elements relate to, and as you recall, the imprint of Sun Trail, and I've discussed this before, so you have the context, right? For our area, the imprint is the railroad right-of-way, but there are also other options available as well that could connect Bonita Springs and Estero. That might include Imperial Parkway, it might include US 41, it might include coming down via Coconut. These are all mights, so I think you probably will be hearing something about that as well, just keeping our options open. We are, in order to do preparatory background work for this, Nick Betos and I are meeting with Seminole Gulf to chat. And Nick's also had some outreach to CSX as well. One other piece of very good news, which is, as it turns out, there is another loop that, frankly, we weren't pushing for, that sometimes good things happen anyhow, even if you don't push for them. There's another alternate loop on Sun Trail that would come down along the beach and actually along Bonita Beach Road, which is consistent with what's in our Bonita Beach Road visioning study. So that is, people are already pushing for that. I added our voice to that, as it has the potential for more funding in the future, which is a good thing, to say the least. The last thing is, I did reach out to Commissioner Kiker because I wanted to be sure that we were coordinated with Lee County with respect to anything we're doing here on this. And we did have a very constructive meeting with Larry and Roger DeJarlais and Randy Searcy, who is the head of LEDOT, discussing all of this. And I have every impression that the county is supportive of not just what we're doing, but even more now interested in Sun Trail options, which is a good thing for all of us. So that's my report to council.
Sure. Steve.
Peter, thank you for all that, but when you mentioned the potential of the funding, where are we talking about? What kind of funding from where?
So Sun Trail funding, let me back up a second. So Sun Trail, in one name or another, so this is the statewide imprint of multimodal paths. It's the concept of the multimodal paths has been in place for many years, but it's only really 2 years ago, Steve, that funding started. All right, and the funding started thanks to the Florida Greenways and Trails, and I would say mayors, commissioners, people throughout the middle of Florida, kind of from Tampa Bay to Orlando, pushing for it. So, as a result of that, it has been in the last 3 years a total, I forget the detail, a total of $75 million in state of Florida funding, for multimodal paths. And those have been dedicated basically a third to the Coast to Coast Trail, which goes from Tampa to Orlando, another third for a loop that's up by Jacksonville, and another third sprinkled around the state. That's where Cape Coral got their portion, all right?
Gotcha.
Part of what I think you will be hearing Dale Allen talk about is an initiative that came out of the summit in Venice hosted by TBARTA, which is the Tampa Bay Transportation Agency, to push for 10% of Amendment 1 money on an ongoing basis.
Gotcha.
All right, so that's
you.
that's the potential funding.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Mike?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the Art League and staff for working so hard to keep the road open during the art festival. It did seem to work out pretty well. The only hindrance is still the bridge being the one lane, but as Carl said, hopefully that should be resolved in a couple weeks because it's not even just during the art show; it's every day down there that the traffic really backs up with the bridge being one lane. And also, I did. I guess I want to apologize to the Art League if I did misstate during the previous meeting that they were asked to leave. I may have used the wrong words. My main point was that they're not there anymore, and it's apparently not an option to go there. And then, as was also stated about Fifth Ave, I don't believe I said any specific event down there, but I just said that due to events down there that they did ask that the council place limits on road closures for Fifth Ave. And I believe that is factual, so. And then beyond that, I did want to ask about the light at Bonita Bay and Lime Street. I have had people asking, 'cause they knew it was approved, but, they were kind of hoping they'd see it this season.
Right. We've said April for a number of months. We are on track for April. The long lead time on any of these type of repairs or creations is that those particular posts and equipment have to be manufactured really custom for each individual intersection. So right now, we're still in that manufacturing stage. But once we get the product, we get the equipment on site, it won't take all that long to get it up. So we're still looking at April. That's where we're at.
Okay. So if there's a backlog in manufacturing, maybe we should look at starting a manufacturing plant for these things. Could be pretty lucrative.
Economic development.
But that's all I have.
No, thanks, Mike. And Carl, do we have an update on the intersection south of there, like where Starbucks is? Riverview?
Right. We don't. We're not involved in that intersection. I know. As we were on the one up north. So that's being handled entirely by the private sector, and I really do not have an update on that particular thing.
Kind of as a sidebar here, because I constantly get asked about that, and I constantly remind them that we're not there, but that's, when you're the mayor, that's not an acceptable answer. So what I'd like to do is reach out to Randy Mercer. I was going to say, and Baron Collier. So what I'd like to do is put together a letter that we could send those tenants with an update, just so they have an idea of where it is or where it isn't. And my understanding is that it is, but that would just be helpful, I think, for a lot of folks that work in those buildings and frequent those buildings as well. So that if we could put that, Carl, you and I, on our to-do list, that would be great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Fred?
Yeah, I have two things. Briefly, I'm going to get a presentation put together and have it presented to us like we had at MPO. It was a meeting that Councilman O'Flynn was not able to attend, nor Mayor Simmons, and it was all about crosswalks. Florida has got a real poor record in pedestrian deaths, bicycle deaths. I think we lead the nation. But that's because we have better weather that's more conducive to walking and biking, too. But the big thing I took away
Are you saying New Hampshire's not number 2 on that list, Fred?
Maybe. That's because of reckless.
Yeah, not this time either.
The one thing that this presentation will show you is that the way most crosswalks are in our city and any place you go is they really don't stand out. And if you go to more standout designs, then you actually reduce traffic because the oncoming cars see that and will in most cases, slow down, not in all cases. Now, the other thing I was going to do is give you a quick update on something that, if you remember back last year, we said we wanted to have recognition of businesses and all that. That was based on the good work that Amy had done. And Debbie is actually the one that Carl has tasked to do these things. And she wanted me to give you a little brief report. Number one, between April when we took office and 1 January, there's roughly 130 people that will be recognized. And we don't, and she wisely, I think, says we don't want to make a special day out of this because we have enough special days where we have to come down and do stuff anyway. So what she's proposed that we're going to do is starting 1 March, we will take that list of 130 and we will start bringing in groups of 35 people. But in the 35 people will be those that came in, more recently, because otherwise we'd never catch up. And the way it will work would be we would have a pre-meeting at an hour before we normally open. However, anyone at council that can't make it, it's not the end of the world. We will give them their recognition certificate, and then when the mayor opens the meeting, the very first presentation, those that receive one person from each company will come up and get a group photo. If it's too many, we may break it into 2 groups. And there'll be a little light refreshment served and all that. But again, it's not a mandatory. You don't lose points if you don't show up because everybody has schedules. So that's it. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you very much. And I just wanted to point out a shout out to Florida Department of Transportation. So while I assume Mr. Q and Mrs. Q and others around our community were enjoying a Valentine's Day dinner last night, I can assure you that part of my evening and Mrs. Simmons's evening was spent down on I-75 next to Terry Street, pulling over and watching them paint the Terry Street Bridge. And I just want to give FDOT a big shout out. Romantic evening, right? And I have paint on my shoe to prove it. Can you believe it? Yes. And we're still married. She actually enjoyed it, believe it or not. So.
While she was watching?
Wow. Yeah, we did wear hard hats and we put on some reflective gear. But that's just a small example of when you work with FDOT and groups like that. We had Commissioner Kiker here. Look, this council, and this is a shout out to this council and a testament to this council of what we're doing, how we're doing it. We're including people. We're making it open. We're making it transparent. We're the squeaky wheels. And you know what? We're the squeaky wheels in a very nice and professional manner. Now, having labored on that point, having said that, let's continue to do that because we're getting things done and we know we want to get a whole heck of a lot more done. And in reference to the discussion we had today with the Wonder Gardens, yes, we're going to dig in. Yes, we're going to find an answer. And yes, we're going to make that happen. So thank you for that discussion. And with that, and just a quick shout out. I mean, we really did have a dignitary here in town this past week. We had Ambassador John Bolton in town, and I was lucky enough to, boy, when you're the mayor, you get to meet some great people. Yeah, he's a heck of a guy. Very, very impressive. Very down to earth. Unbelievable. Got to spend the evening with him, having dinner, sitting down to dinner with him, and listening to him speak, and that was just a true honor for me. And Congressman Rooney and his team continue to do outreach and continue to dive into the issues and get their hands on like Commissioner Kiker does. They're visiting Bonita Springs, they're taking meetings, they're here, they're accessible, and we're getting things done. So with that, with this council, great job, stay at it. Let's agree to disagree when we do that, but we all know we're doing it for the greater good, and we all know that.
And we respect each other.
Absolutely. Let's disagree without being disagreeable, and let's respect each other in a respectfully disagreeable way when we have to. So, Fred, you had something.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Carl, could we get Laura to get a nice positive statement on the motion that we made and passed on the Wonder Garden so it gets to the media, so we get our story out.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great
Sure,
point.
absolutely, we'll do that.
Absolutely, and if it's done at 8 o'clock tonight, I'll be down here to sign it, whenever it is. Okay, that sounds great. And with that, council, anything further?
If you'd
Yeah.
like, if you'd like.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I'm just, anything else, because...
Well, if you'd like, I can read that tomorrow at the event.
Sure, no, that'd be
Yeah.
wonderful.
Okay.
That would be fantastic. That would be great.
Make sure,
Greg?
Ted, you got all that? You got that back there?
Thank you very much.
Move to approve.
Thaddeus, yeah, Thaddeus is fantastic. Thank you, Thad. Approval of the minutes.
I move.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilman Slapjack.
Aye.
Mayor Simmons.
Aye.
Councilman O'Flynn. Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Councilman Forbes.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carumba.
Aye.
Councilman
Aye.
Okay, public comment at this time. Rick?
Almost out of here. All right, Rick Steinmeier. As I mentioned before, I'm with the Lions Club of Bonita Springs, not the other one, the new one. There was some question about how come you go to the thrift store on Pennsylvania Avenue at the Lions Club and you don't pay sales tax. Oh, great, that's wonderful. Well, the Lions Club pays the sales tax after they get the receipts, and every month we send a check to the state. The sales tax is being paid, but we're not charging the customer, and we don't have all the pennies and all the paperwork involved in making these transactions. But we still have the best prices in town. The money comes back to the city. We do have a couple employees that live in the city, that spend their money in the city. We have lots of volunteers. Sunday from 1 to 3, from 11:30 till 3 o'clock, we have a fish fry. The Historical Society is having a fish fry by the Lyles Hotel. The Lions Club is furnishing the fish, and the proceeds go to the Historical Society, which is the Lions Club and the Historical Society pretty much pay their own bills as nonprofits. And then I hope we get U.S. steel or American-made steel for these light fixtures, and well, as far as crosswalks, I've been told that Florida doesn't have any jaywalking laws. You can cross the street anywhere you want. Well, maybe if we investigate that, we can get more crosswalks painted on the roads. Maybe we use that as a little leverage. I'm not positive that's true or not. That might help. As far as term limits, I understand that if you're in an office for 8 years, take 2 years off, you can come back and run for the same office. You don't have to move to a different district. Or you can move to be the mayor and back, 16 years is enough, I guess. The ultimate term limit is taken care of by a good Lord.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you very much. 16 or 8, right, Rick? Hello, Deborah, thank you.
I'm excited about your desire to help the Everglades Wonder Gardens. What I'd like to talk about is the Charter Review Committee. I was on the original Bonita Springs Incorporation, Inc. movement. I helped push this referendum to success, so I'm very fond of the city. One of the things that is not addressed in the charter is how to vet a candidate. Perhaps an advisory board at election time would vet candidates, find out what their knowledge is, what their intent is, their purpose, but most importantly, do background checks. Because there are issues with people with criminal background checks running for office here and at BSU, and sometimes at the fire district. They know how to vet. We won't support you. No, they're very careful about not the person having a different opinion, a person of bad character, disruptive person. In this city, we had an experience like this. We had a technology board, and Jude Reichenthal, now Jude Richville, was the chairperson, and it was so awful that the city had no means other than to dissolve the advisory board.
Just a point of order.
Say generic,
Point of
general, yes.
order.
I can't mention that? Okay. This board was dissolved because of disruptive leadership and just terrible. So how does the city prevent future problems? in vetting? How can they legally vet and make it part of the charter? Because if it's part of the charter, that person with a bad background, no matter how reformed, that hurts us. So I would like that to happen, that somehow we vet candidates that you'll be working with, that they have the skills, that they're computerized. We have members on advisory boards that don't use computers. This slows things down. And it's really, no matter how bright, they have to have. When I volunteered for a golf tournament, they gave me 10 pages. What can you do? Can you operate a computer? Can you accept and return email? Can you open an attachment? How do you vet potential officers and advisory board members? It's not always ugly stuff. It's basic technical stuff. And you may know how to do it now, but maybe you're slowing down and you can't quite do it anymore. You're never going to tell us. But we need to know what to do, how to ask someone gently to leave, or how to make sure we don't get them in office or on a board. And that could be done in the charter.
Thank you. Other members of the public? Okay, seeing none. Mike?
I just wanted to mention one thing. Rick, you brought up the fish fry. I thought I'd read that it was at the Lions Club and not the Lyles Hotel, though. I was looking through my email. I couldn't find it, but I thought I had read that. So if it's not at the Lyles Hotel, it's at the Lions Club.
Okay.
You got a good question. I can't answer that.
Okay.
I just noticed the tickets for sale is $12. I always thought it was held by the hotel.
In the past it has, but I swear that when I just recently read it, I thought it said it was going to be at the Lions Club.
Anybody that has a question can call City Hall or call the Historical Society or check out the websites. Thank you very much. And motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, we are adjourned.